Good evening and welcome to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is our 267th take, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. This is going to be a fantastic show. One for the books, you might say, one for the films, one for the movies,
filmography,
one for the Cineplex, all the good, yes, one for the filmography. Yes. Do I sound like shit tonight? I absolutely do, but that's because I do it all for you, my audience, and I brought together a special guest tonight. But before we get to formal introductions of the guests of honor, we do have to thank the people that make this show possible. That, of course, is our sponsors. Tonight's show is sponsored by Drew Estate. Drew Estate continues to fund and bring some of the most exciting cigars to market from over the summer. The new H99 Papas Fritas, and of course, the newest and greatest from the Deadwood series tobacco of Girl with No Name, all available at Drew Diplomat retailers and exclusive shops throughout the country, and including also going worldwide as well, with even some exclusive cigars for the international market. Drew Estate continues to innovate and bring some of the most exciting and fun releases to the market to date. You definitely want to check out any Drew Diplomat retailer, as of course you can find some of the best cigars from Drew Estate. As always, they've got the staples of the Liga Privada number 9, T52, Herrera, Esteli, and of course the Acid cigar line, which is classic for all of those non-traditional smokers out there. They've got one for the books, and of course the Deadwood Tobacco Company cigars, Sweet Jane, Crazy Alice, and the illustrious Fat Bottom Betty. Continue to surprise palates and enlighten cigar smokers the world over. So check out Drew Estate Cigars wherever you are, any Drew Diplomat retailer. And welcome, everybody. This is our 267 take. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome in tonight's guest, sponsored by United Cigars. Smoke one today and start living United, Mr. Tripp Waldrop. Tripp, how you doing tonight?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, Bear. Always a pleasure. Always happy to hang out with you and talk a little bit.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. This is your record tying. Miguel Shadell was on 2 weeks ago, setting the new record, and as always, it's a battle between you guys. So
I appreciate you keeping me at the top of the list there.
Yeah,
like if I'm not on top, I'm at least close.
Yeah,
and I appreciate that. That's all thanks to you. I can't take credit.
Yeah, the ninth appearance tonight, man. The ninth appearance. Lucky number 10 eludes you both guys, but I'm sure that'll be taken with care of within the year or so for either of both of y'all. So you guys have been incredible supporters, so I really appreciate it. Yeah. We get Dennis back.
You know what? I'm wearing Miguel's hat right now.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Not even on purpose.
Wow. Oh man. How about that? Herencia 21, check it out.
Check it out. Great. Like, I'm a hat guy. These are great hats. I gotta say, like, just fantastic detail work on these hats.
Yeah, I like the black ones. I should have gotten one. I did the red, white, and blue Estados Unidos.
Oh, that one's cool too. I almost got that one as well.
I have no connection to the country whatsoever, but I think I'm going to get the Colombian hat. I think it looks cool. I like the colors, obviously. Yeah. So
they're all cool.
Just guys.
I love them.
Just guys. Because it's pretty cool. So yeah, check out Herencia 21, Miguel's hat company, man. It's cool stuff. It's only going to go from places from here. Like, I wonder what he's going to do next, man. I'm really excited because, like, I know he's going to come up with some cool shit. Are you into Clink Room at all? Have you seen the Clink Room? I need to hook you up with Clink Room. So it's basically, you probably would have a ball with this, man. Like, the Clink Room is pretty awesome. So, like, you go in, there's some hats that are for sale currently that you can buy, but most of it's like you vote on designs by like pre-ordering and shit. And then
I think I've seen these.
Yeah.
Advertised on Facebook and stuff.
Yeah.
Is this the one where people vote on designs and they're all like vaguely sports looking, but sort not of real sports teams?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. I guess you could say.
Okay. I have seen these. I really like it. There's something I really like, and I also really like about Crown Heads hats that, I'm just not really a sports guy. I don't get behind any particular team.
Hence one of the
or anything like that.
Hence one of the questions later tonight. Yeah. Hence one of the questions later tonight.
Yeah. I figured that was why that was in there. But I love hats that look like a sports team but aren't a real sports team. So like the Crown Heads hats that all have like logos that people always ask me when I wear them, like, what team is that? it's like, well, not one you've ever heard of because it's just a cigar company.
Right, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah,
So
these
like
are the
here's
ones I was thinking of. Yeah.
yeah. So there's some ones that you can actually buy right now and stuff. That kind of looks like Star Wars a little bit. I don't know. Oh, that's cool. Shit. Damn, this is gonna get me in trouble.
See, the problem with these is they're all cool. Like
They're
I
all
would
cool.
wear
See,
any one of the hats from this place.
this looks pretty cool, except for the fact that he's juggling candy corn, and I'm morally opposed to
Yeah,
candy
nobody likes
corn.
candy corn.
Nope, not true. Not true. I mean, I hate it. I think it's disgusting, but now there's people out there that'll freaking gorge themselves.
Have you ever, there's an old Lewis Black bit where he talks about how they made candy corn once in the 50s, and then there's a machine somewhere that just sifts through garbage and rebags all the candy corn every year because nobody eats it.
That's funny. It's also disgusting because I've seen people in my life eat candy corn, but yeah,
I mean, if you're gonna eat candy corn,
this one's
you gotta
pretty
be ready
cool.
for it to taste like garbage.
Frankie Stein. I like that.
Yeah, see, they're all rad. I love that tree, bonsai tree.
Nice. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. Like, not gonna lie, I dig it. Here's another one. Beer Power.
Oh, that beer power one. I saw that one today. That was really cool.
I don't know, this peanut butter and jelly time too. I don't know. I'd be all over this shit. Like, there's just some cool stuff, man. Like, here I am. You'd think I'd work for them. I'm just giving them like free pub.
Just free advertising.
Yeah. Like, hey, Clink Room, if you want to sponsor the
I mean,
ELOSOFUMARTAKES show, go ahead for it. So
exactly.
but yeah, let's go ahead and get some things started. Let's get away we got some business, of course, to attend to. Which of course is always picking my cigar for the night. I have no voice right now, so let's make it worse. That's my motto. Anyway, so I've got a couple cigars for you to choose from. I actually got 5. So it's up to you, Tripp. I'd be honored if you pick my cigar for me. So first up, I've got a Henry Clay Warhawk Toro.
Oh.
A Sober Mesa Brulee from our friends at Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. The Pastania War Bear Box Press Toro. Look at that.
Oh man, you got some bangers in the lineup.
Yeah, dude. The 2 more, man. This one's this one's one of the dark horses, man. Here we go. The Byron 1850 Selection.
Oh,
It's the one with the extra Heroine. It's really good. And then I've got Year of the Rabbit from Davidoff.
wow. Choices.
Yeah. So Henry Clay Warhawk, Sober Mesa Brulee, the War Bear, Year of the Rabbit, or Byron 1850.
I mean, if I'm gonna choose the one that I would choose for myself, starting off the night with a Henry Clay Warhawk.
Okay.
I love that cigar.
I love it too, man.
It's just so good as a I think it's one of the better iterations of the like not your father's Connecticut kind of thing.
Right.
That's like, a Connecticut, but it really has some punch to it. But at the same time, it's like relaxed enough that it's okay to be your first cigar of the night. And It's not going to blow out your palate at all.
Well, it's funny about this cigar is so I have part of my criteria I do a top 10 every year. And part of my criteria is that company can't have more than one cigar in the top 10. Cause like, I don't want like someone comes out with like 3 or 4 bangers in a year and I'm just like chain smoking them. I don't want like the list to be like all like one company.
Half from one company. Yeah.
Right. So that's why I put the rule in there. This cigar missed my top 10 by such a small margin because there was another cigar from Altadis that year that I've smoked a shit ton of it. So it's just one of those things. So I'm like, yeah. So like I tell, sorry, I can't remember who I was talking to. I was like, man, I freaking love that cigar. Like, oh, did it make your top 10? Like, no. Really? Like, yeah, but I love it. So, it's one of those things.
Sometimes, right?
Yeah. Can't win them all.
So. Yeah. If you're gonna have rules, you got to play by them.
Exactly. Absolutely. What's everyone smoking tonight? Everyone out there in the chat. So we got some audience members out there. So let's check it out. So yeah, I've got the Henry Clay Warhawk. I'm going to be lighting it up with beautiful Zycar lighter, man. Dude, this thing is awesome, man. I love this thing. And soft flame too.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's a pretty banger.
while you like that, I'll just talk about what I'm smoking, which is a Papasaka Mikarita Black, the Papasaka Corona Gorda-ish. Saka's hot new broadleaf cigar. I wasn't a huge fan of the original size, but I think that it really sings in this size. I thought it smokes really good and it has flavor for days in the Saka Con, but that size is just unwieldy for me.
Dude, I think they're like two different cigars.
Yeah, exactly. They smoke very differently. I enjoy the Saka Con, but this I feel like at home with this size, and I think it's a little. I don't want to use the word punchy again, but it's a little more of a flavor bomb for me in this size than it is in that larger format.
That was my problem. Like, I mean, the Saga Con, you're very generous. I think I didn't like it. It just didn't hit for me. It didn't hit my palate. So a smaller format, I was kind of excited to try, but I wasn't like, my hopes weren't too high just because I'd rather smoke.
Maybe that blend's not for me, right?
Yeah.
Like
I'd rather smoke any, like, I mean, I still think the best cigar that Steve's ever done is still the original Sober Mesa. I fucking love that cigar.
Agreed.
It's so goddamn good. And I love Mikarita Blue. I love those two. Those are probably my two favorite blends. But and I like Sin Carver Mesa too and everything like that. I like Todos Los Dias. A lot of people just aren't, for some reason, just weren't as big a fan of it. I guess is the term, but yeah, the original SockCon. But when I tried this, I was like, holy shit, it's really good. And holy shit, it tastes completely different.
Yeah, it's just a fantastic size.
Yeah.
And the blend really sings in this size.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and kick things off. So for everyone out there that's tuning in, we got a theme tonight going. Tripp has done a couple of movie podcasts with me. We share a love of film and all things movies and stuff. So tonight we're going to be taking a journey into our love of film. So we've got several categories and questions that I've posed together tonight. Tripp, if you have anything that you want to kind of bring to the table, I'm sure you can as well. But yeah, it's mostly just about fun. We're going to be smoking some cigars, drinking some drinks, and talking a little bit about both of our mutual love of film and stuff. So hopefully it goes all over the place. It's a little of an eclectic collection. So let's, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into tonight's major point, which is always brought to you the people. Yes, cigar people, the people who know everything about a lifetime of service. Protocol Cigars is more than just pool parties and good times. Well, maybe it is. But behind the fun is a motivation for service, a motivation for giving back. From the original Protocol Blue to the latest release in the Lawman series, Phoebe Cousins, Protocol has always been about honor, passion, and yes, the people. It's what their life's work has been and always will be about. Power of the P, Protocol Cigars. Well, Tripp, I mean, I just kind of would get some background from you. Like when have you always been a fan of movies? Did it come later in life for you, or like where did you start? Like where did the cinema grab your attention?
I think I've always been a fan of movies. A lot of my like childhood memories are specifically attached to specific movies. I remember I had a friend in let's see, it would have been third grade, first, second, third grade, like that young. And I had a friend whose dad was super into movies. He worked at IBM with my dad, lived in the same neighborhood as us. And
whoa, time out.
I remember
your dad worked for IBM?
Yeah, for 30-ish years.
You worked for IBM?
Yeah.
Man.
Just on accident. It's
That's
just
crazy.
the way it happened for me. Like I had never planned to work for IBM, and I just ended up there.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So this guy from IBM, and having grown up in my dad working for IBM, like I remember when I was a similar age, I went to work with my dad and we played a pre-release version of Quake in their, they had like a computer lab, I guess, and they had all these computers networked together, and it was like bring your kid to work day. And we had like 15 people playing Quake together before Quake was even out.
That's cool.
Like, and those kinds of things, we had I had piles of discs that we would send games to work with our dad, and then other kids would send games to work with their dad, and we would get discs back of all these games we'd never heard of. But so there were a lot of techies in my life growing up. This guy had a laser disc player and
Oh
like
shit!
a
Like,
projector in his basement.
oh nice.
And I remember I must have been weeks before I moved from Virginia to Connecticut. So this was kind of like my last hurrah with this friend. And we watched Terminator 2 on Laserdisc.
Yes.
Which I, that was like, that's the first movie I remember being like, holy shit, that was a good movie. And then we watched The Time Machine, which I don't know what year it came out. I would guess somewhere in the 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
That movie terrified me. I didn't sleep for like 3 nights.
That movie terrified you. Watched
Terminator
Terminator 2
to get me.
You watched Terminator 2
didn't phase me.
But yeah.
But the Morlocks freaked
the
me
Morlocks.
out. Yeah. That was like, those are the first movies that I remember like being really into and being like, kind of understanding cinema a little bit for the first time. And then in senior year in high school, I watched movies in between there, but senior year in high school, I took a film studies class that like changed the way I watched movies.
Right.
And changed the way I thought about them, understanding how they're made, why shots are filmed this way, and just kind of the process behind things. And that, I think I credit that with being the moment I really turned into a cinephile.
Yeah. It's funny because like I watched so many movies growing up. Watched so many, like my father and I watched every fucking John Wayne movie like more than once. Like that was he and I's thing. Watched so many films growing up, just so much. Like I just couldn't get enough of films. Went to the theater quite a bit when I was in high school and college.
Yeah, in high school, I had a theater walking distance, so I was at the theater multiple times.
Like every weekend. Yeah, it was just crazy. And that was back, even those like the expensive theater. We also had 50-cent and dollar theaters too. So like I would go and watch the cool shit for $4 at the time, $4 or $5. And then I would go and the ones that I was like, less impressed with, I'd let them go to the 50-cent or dollar theater and I would go watch those too later. But as we date ourselves, like this is going to be forever on a podcast. Like people are going to like listen to this later and be like, man, $1. How old were these guys? It was a time to be alive, guys. It was a time to be alive. Trust me. But it was
the Netflix of its day.
Yeah, it really was. Think about it too. No ads either. But the thing that too is like, so I majored in sport. I was a sports broadcasting major in college, right? Mm-hmm. But when at TCU goes through the radio, TV, film department, and like everybody in my freaking school, the radio, TV, film department, everyone who went through that major, dude, was like, they were all film people. Like they thought they were going to be the next Steven Spielberg and stuff. There's been a couple of people from my class that have made it and they're doing stuff in Hollywood. It's pretty fucking badass. Wow. I will say, but there are a couple of people that were a little delusional that they were going to be the next Spielberg. But hey, man, not going to crush a dream for sure. But I wasn't those people. Like they're like, oh, Bear, what do you want to do in film and stuff? Like nothing. I freaking want to call sports games, call baseball games. That's what I want to do for the rest of my life. Of course, I'm not doing that, but at least I'm using my degree now with podcasting. So at least I'm doing something. But Joan McGettigan taught the aesthetics of film class. And in order to become a radio TV film major, you had to take 3 core classes, and hers was one of the class. It was the toughest class, one of the toughest classes I ever took in college. It was definitely the toughest class in my major. And she was tough, man. She was super tough professor, man, but she made me fucking love film.
Nice.
She made me love film, and I can't watch a film anymore. Like they're like, oh, like even just like the dumb ones, like you just go for pure enjoyment. Nope, I'm still looking at shit. I'm still looking at lighting and how it sounds, and like
that's absolutely like kind of when you take a class like that, you understand the theory behind film and the 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 production that goes into a movie. It's very similar, I tell people, to going to a cigar factory for the first time. And like
Right.
it changes your outlook on the end result because you understand everything that went into it.
Right.
And it gives you kind of for movies at least, it gives you a different way to analyze it that you can't turn off. You can't just watch a dumb movie and enjoy the story. You're looking at the background and going like, man, I wonder how they made that space gun. Like you can tell that it started as a Nerf gun and then they added a frying pan onto the side and
Right. Yeah, just some crazy ass shit. Like,
and
well,
you're focused on little things like that.
well, and it's also like choices too. So like for like dumbass comedies, like Dumb and Dumber, for example, like which is a great comic film. It may or may not come out tonight, but like it's one of those movies that's just fucking stupid and it's hilarious. And for its time, like it was like the rise of Jim Carrey. Like Jim Carrey's 1994 was just unbelievable. He did The Mask, Ace Ventura, and Dumb and Dumber in the same goddamn year.
It's crazy.
It's
to think about
crazy.
that.
Like, and like, but like the dog van, like that's a choice that I'm just like, what? Why'd they like? It's stupid,
That
but
kind of
why'd they
thing.
do that? Why'd they do that? Like, why was it done that way? You know, it's just one of those things. Like, and then you see also connections from one film to another and how like films influence each other.
Mhm.
Like I was thinking about this. Yeah, I watched The Bronx Tale the other day. Um, because of the Bronx Tale cigar that came out this summer and stuff, so I've been itching to rewatch it and stuff. And I love that. I love that film. And
Great movie.
yeah, and it was like 2 years earlier, Goodfellas has that iconic scene where they kind of walk through the lobby, like they walk through the restaurant. They're introducing you to all the characters. And in Bronx Tale, there's a similar scene. It's like, oh, that's straight up ripped from Goodfellas. Not in a bad way. Like I don't want to insult Chaz Palminteri. Like I mean, you got to get influence from somewhere, but it's a it's a total rip from that. And that's what I love about film is that it's like you can see the influence of different films in next generation filmmaking. Like even today, like with there's
Mhm.
just so much IP with the fucking Marvel cinematic universe and stuff like that. But there's a lot of stuff that kind of harkens back to old Hollywood too that a lot of people don't
Yeah.
give those guys credit for, which it's unfortunate. But so but yeah, man, cool, awesome. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited. So let's go ahead and kick things off here with tonight's first question. I thought we'd have a little fun. It's October, and Christmas is coming up too, and give you a chance to needle me on something in Christmas here, but I'm not going to influence your answer. So we're going to do top 3 films, Halloween films, and top 3 Christmas films. So I'm going to go first. This is my dark horse Halloween film. I don't know why I love it. It's more like a guilty pleasure because like going back on the rewatch, it's Tim Burton who's just fucking over the top and he's just weird. But this was a really dark and twisted takeoff of one of my favorite animated films as a kid. And the movie is Sleepy Hollow, Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci. I freaking love that movie, dude.
I watched that movie a lot when it came out on. I don't remember whether it was DVD
or
VHS.
VHS, yeah.
It was probably VHS, but I remember watching that movie a lot, over and over again.
Awesome. Oh man, dude, he's so quirky in it. I know we were talking about Jim Carrey a second ago. It's like Johnny Depp in that role was very much you can see we were talking about influence of film, right? It's very much a dark Jim Carrey Ace Ventura, right? Because he plays an inspector, right? So he takes on this, but you can see the early influence of what would later become Captain Jack Sparrow in the role.
Yeah.
And I freaking love it. Because like at the time, I think the only film that I really got really into with Depp, almost pun intended, with Johnny Depp was Donnie Brasco.
Oh
where he
God, I
plays the
love that
yeah,
movie.
I love that fucking film, dude, where he's an undercover FBI agent. Like, so like that was the only experience, like the extensive experience that I had with Johnny Depp. And then I
Mhm.
saw Sleepy Hollow and I was like, holy cow. Like,
Which, looking back on his career, Donnie Brasco is like such a departure from everything else he's ever done.
right. Absolutely, man. And he's so good in it.
Yeah.
He goes toe to toe with fucking Al Pacino, dude, in that film. Like toe to toe with him. It's nuts. It's so good though. But yeah, that Sleepy Hollow is my first pick for top Halloween film. I wouldn't say it's my favorite. I'm gonna do my favorite last. I'm gonna do these in kind of reverse order. But go ahead, Tripp. What's
All
one
right.
of your
Yeah, I put four, so I'll save my number one for last too. So I have kind of a tradition that I've been doing for maybe 10, 12 years of trying to watch one movie a day for all of October.
Oh wow.
A
Okay.
horror movie, or at least Halloween-ish vibes kind of movie. So I watch a lot of garbage movies every
Yeah.
Halloween season. Um, but there are a couple movies that I go back to year after year. Sometimes I take a year off. My number one movie, I never take a year off. I watch it every year. Um, but I'm gonna go with Evil Dead 2 for my number three.
Okay.
It was a very influential film when I first
I
saw it in the late 90s.
I thought you were gonna say a sequel. I thought you were gonna go straight up Omen 2. Omen 2 is
That is a good one. That
it's
is
so fucking good, and it's the second one in a shitty reign of like just run of movies. Dude, that's true. Dude, that's the thing about this list about Halloween is there's so much. We're gonna do Christmas next, right? Like
Mhm.
even shitty Christmas Hallmark movies like are like feel good and nice, and it's like, oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's the vibes,
But
right? You gotta get those vibes.
it's yeah, it's the vibe of it. But Halloween has just such trash. There's so much crappy movies.
There's a lot of bad movies. I like, obviously the thought of picking a Halloween movie crossed my mind, but
Yeah.
as much as like the first two movies are classics and the rest is kind of garbage. Well, Halloween 3 is great, but the rest is pretty bad. Um, I couldn't do it. It's too cliche. So Evil Dead 2, it's the first half is basically a remake of the first Evil Dead with a bigger budget and more sensible special effects. But it's just like an off the rails horror movie that has like a weird amount of Three Stooges kind of comedy,
Right.
and I love it.
Nice. So I had like there's two, like my top two are like both like kind of in the same vein a little bit. Um just like I guess you could say they're in the same category other than Halloween, right? But the but I can't get around it. It's Tim Burton again. I can't not watch this film every year about this time. And it's just, again, we were talking about like the nerd aspect of it, just like the how well it's made considering when it was made. And it's just so, it's so well done considering the medium that's used, and it's the claymation type of stuff. So it's the Nightmare Before Christmas. So,
Of course.
Tim, yeah, I mean, it's which could have fit honestly into either
I was gonna
category.
say you could have put that in either one of these
Totally could
categories. It
have.
fits.
But yeah, I mean, it's just so fucking good. It's so it the it's so thematic. It's the typical story of like a person who wants to change and wants to break the status quo but can't get out of his own way
Mhm.
because of like circumstances around it. There's so many valuable lessons taught in that movie, and it's just very, it's again, because it's Tim Burton, it's very bizarre and like interestingly put together and everything, and it's really fantastic. So yeah, that's
Fantastic movie. I
yeah.
haven't watched that in too long. I should watch that in the coming weeks. Or
See, I
months,
thought I
'cause,
thought
again,
I
it could be
totally
a
thought I would be
Christmas movie.
stealing this one from you. So this one
Mm-mm.
wasn't on your top three. Okay,
I tried to go just enough off the beaten path for most of them.
awesome. So what's your next one?
Man, I put two for this one because I wasn't sure which one to pick. Um, I'm gonna go with the goofier one. I was gonna say Texas Chainsaw Massacre because that's like one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, so fucking stupid good. Stupid good.
I love that movie. It is so good, and I think anybody who doesn't like that movie just doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
Like everything about that movie amazes me. But I'm gonna go with Friday the 13th Part 6 because that's again a movie that I remember watching as a kid, and is always like to me that's always been the definitive Friday the 13th movie.
Yes.
That's the one where, for anyone who doesn't remember, it's where the grave robbers try to steal Jason's body or something. They try to dig him up, and they're trying to like kill him again or something. I can't remember now. It's been a year or two since I've watched it. But they stab him, or no, the grave robbers dig him up, and then Tommy Jarvis shows up and stabs him with the piece of it's like a iron post from a fence, and lightning strikes it, and we have for the first time zombie Jason, and it's just a ridiculous movie. That's the one with the paintball scene. I love that movie for no reason. It's such a garbage movie that is so much fun to watch.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is perfectly epitomized, years later with the Geico commercial where it's got the people running around in the horror, like a horror movie setup. And they're like, what do we do? Should we go into the garage with all the sharp, rusty, like things that could hurt us? Or do we go over here? It's like, why don't we just get in the running car? The garage. Let's go to the garage,
We'll go to the garage.
And then the equivalent to the the evil guy is just like shaking his head like all right, that's basically a parody off of what the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is, because it's so stupid. It's great. I love it.
And a lot of people don't know Texas Chainsaw Massacre is thought of as one of the scariest movies of all time, or at least it was for a long time. I feel like it's fallen off a little bit being 45 years old now. But it's got almost no blood. There's almost no blood shown in the whole movie. One of the scenes that always gets people is he Leatherface grabs this girl and puts her up on the meat hook, and then it pans down, and there's like a bucket underneath her, like a wash basin kind of steel bucket, and people think that bucket just fills with blood in that scene, and there's no blood at all. There's nothing, and it's just just the thought that went into that, and the way that they were able to craft a movie that's so scary but shows you so little of the scary things is incredible.
Well, I think what it really reminds me of years later, and this is one of my favorite films. It's not, I didn't characterize it as a Halloween film, but it's like, but on the topic of horror, right? It's a horror comedy, and it's just so fucking well made. And the acting is, yes, cheesy, but it's actually really well done and really well performed. The Cabin in the Woods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that fucking love that film. It is so funny, and it's scary enough. Like there's suspenseful moments, man, that get you a little, but there's so much comedy of error and so much like fun to be had with it. That's really, really great. And oh man, I love it.
I love that movie. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's so good. It's not, this is on my list, but like on the topic of horror, like it just makes it, if you haven't seen Cabin in the Woods though, if you're a horror movie fan, or you're a comedy fan who can stand horror films, like you need to see it. Like that's that's the best way I can say.
It's lampooning horror movies.
Yeah. It's so good.
In a serious enough way that it still manages to be kind of scary.
Yeah. Chris Hemsworth is in it. And it's a Joss Whedon film. So like, I don't know. It's just like Clark Gregg is in it. It's just great. It's just great, man. It's just so fantastic. But no, my last one's actually a feel good film. I watch it every year this year, several times. I watch it throughout the year. Who the fuck am I kidding? But I just this year in particular, it's not technically a Halloween film. It's technically Dias de los Muertos, which is pretty much what Halloween is. So
I know where you're going with this one.
So it's Coco, man. I fucking love Coco.
This almost made a later category for me.
Coco is such a good film. It does make its way into another category for me.
Yeah.
But the premise of it, if you guys haven't watched it, if you don't have kids, you're missing out. I'm sorry. But it's a Pixar film that young Miguel, who wants to be a musician, his family doesn't like music of all things. And he goes about trying to get his family's blessing throughout the film. And it's a series of things where he ends up in the land of the dead, because he stole something. He stole a guitar because he wanted to play music, and that's the whole premise of it and stuff. And it's just the music's great. The acting is, the script is fun, and it's great for kids and adults alike. And there's a lot of lessons, I think, for
Yeah,
both children and adults, which is interesting.
wonderful movie.
Yeah, freaking love it. Absolutely love it. It's one of those things. So what about you? What's your last one? What's the number? That's my number one. And that's my number one.
That's a good number one. My number one is a movie that, like I said, I marathon movies every October, and this one is always in the rotation. Every year I watch Trick or Treat. Trick
Oh,
R apostrophe treat. It's Michael O'Doherty, I believe
mm-hmm.
is the director's name. He's also in my Christmas category coming up. And it's an anthology movie about just this small town and kind of what happens on Halloween night. It's a different anthology movie because it's a lot of anthologies are short films that are mashed together, and this is one guy making a bunch of smaller stories that all are interconnected. And it's just so good. They've talked about making a sequel for decades, but it still hasn't happened. This came out 2009.
Yeah, I was gonna
10
say,
maybe.
yeah.
And ever since then, there's been talk of sequels, but it still hasn't happened. And it creates some brand new Halloween monsters and just creepy Halloween stories that happen on Halloween night around this small town. And it's fantastic. I love this movie.
I freaking love that movie. I think it's great. It's very underrated, so that's funny. It's funny that it's your number one and everything. So, but I dig it, man. I think it's a great film. The another kind of like honorable mention that kind of made my list and stuff, like, because it kind of was a play off of my original question, like how'd you get into films and stuff like that. One of the first movies I ever watched, which honestly, like, I probably shouldn't, as young as I did have, like, I mean, it's silly in retrospect, but like there were some fucking scary parts. It was Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was I went as I think Egon for Halloween when I was a kid several times.
Oh yeah.
That was one of my favorite costumes as a kid. I loved Ghostbusters.
Right.
I did almost put that on my list too.
Yeah. So one of those things, for sure. Did you have one that you wanted to mention before we jumped over to Christmas?
No, I'm good on those.
Okay, cool. So let's I kick things off. So let's top 3 Christmas films. Fucking let me have it, Tripp. Here we go.
All right. I feel like I haven't mentioned, but I lean towards horror in my film intake, if that hasn't been obvious to this point. I watch a lot of horror movies. I love horror, and Christmas is another like subgenre of horror that I absolutely love. But I tried to keep it a little lighter for most of them. But the first one that I'm going to pick is Krampus, which is also directed by Michael O'Doherty.
Dirty, yeah.
And
I knew that was coming once when you did Trick or Treat. Like, man, nice. Krampus.
It's a great movie that is, again, like, it's creepy enough to be considered a horror movie, but it's got, like, as all good Christmas movies do, it has that underlying Christmas lesson, and just a great movie all around. Hilarious. Right, again, very similar to Cabin in the Woods. There's a lot of callbacks. It's kind of right in the middle between horror and comedy.
Nice. Yeah,
it's not really more of either.
I
love that movie.
I really wish O'Doherty, or maybe like even Rob Zombie, who's done some horror films, like, would do a Christmas film about Pedro Negro, which is Black Peter, which is the story that it's the story that in Mexican lore about the person who helps Father Christmas with all the bad kids.
Mhm.
And it's a fucking terrifying story. Like, you know, it's, I mean, my grandmother used to tell me this, like, if you're bad, but you know, Pedro Negro will come and get you. Like, so like, as the story goes, is like you know, if for like during Christmas and everything like that, if you're bad, he would leave a little toy donkey on your windowsill, and then and if you didn't shape up, that toy donkey would leave. Like, you get to keep the toy if you're
Oh
good,
man,
but if the toy's gone, you know,
then that's bad news for
that's
you.
bad news. And then Pedro Negro comes and gets you, takes you away from your family, and you know, because you're bad, you're just a nasty kid. So yeah, it's fucking terrifying. You know, like
So
one of
that
those
actually
things.
gives me some context for a different movie that I wasn't going to mention. It's called Sint, Sint. It's I can't remember what country it's from. It's one of the Scandinavian countries.
Okay.
Um, it's a horror movie where uh, Saint Nick comes to town riding a pale horse kind of thing,
Oh,
where
gosh.
he's he's going through the city and killing all the bad people. And he
Yes.
has followers that are Black Peters.
No, there you go. Yeah, man.
And I had always assumed it was some Scandinavian thing that I'd never heard of. But
I mean, it very well might be. I mean, you know how, like, I mean,
that
there's so
makes
many
sense.
stories that kind of cross
Yeah.
cultures and stuff like that. That's an interesting crossover from Scandinavia to Mexico, though. That's an interesting cross.
Yeah.
That's, I have no idea. I'm not familiar with Scandinavian holiday, you know, traditions and stuff. But that Pedro
Yeah.
Negro is very much a Mexican story. But yeah, I've always wanted to, like, Rob Zombie or someone to fucking make a film about it. Like, I know they would just, like, it would be cheesy as fuck, but it would be scary as shit, and it would be great. That'd be fun.
Yeah. There are a lot of good Christmas horror movies.
Yeah, I think
Good is kind of a
it's a super underrated category, right? Like,
yeah.
it's just kind of weird. I am going to say my top Christmas film of all time. I've heard people say, like, people have asked me all this all the time, because of an aversion I have to another Christmas film. I'm like, well, what's your favorite, Bear? My favorite film, my favorite Christmas movie of all time. I watch it several times during the holiday season, and I watch it every Christmas Eve. And my kids love it, which make it even cooler. Uh, you know, like, yes, it was forced upon them, but if they didn't like it, I wasn't going to force them to watch it every single year like
Yeah.
I do. But they love it, and that's Polar Express. So, and
that was not the one that I was expecting.
a lot of people hate this movie because they're like, oh, it's creepy, and like, oh, Tom Hanks, and it's just weird. I'm like, no, it's fucking amazing. Because, like, I read the Chris Van Malsburg book when I was a kid, and so
Mhm.
when they created this movie, like, I went there, and like, they bring so many images from the book, because I mean, it's a children's book, so it's certainly not an hour and a half read, or, you know, like the film is. So they obviously took some license with the story,
Yeah.
but there's so many images from the book, because there's this one page that actually has the train going through a forest, the Polar Express going through a forest, and there's wolves in the foreground,
Mhm.
and it's just a very well illustrated. Chris Van Allsburg is an incredible illustrator as well as storyteller. You know, he's the one who did Jumanji, and, you know, like,
Yeah.
Zatara and things like that. And so, Zathura, and it's a really iconic page in Polar Express, and they brought that to the screen, and I thought that was just so fucking cool. Um, and the
You want
iconic
to hear a
lines from
hot
the book.
take I have on that movie?
You hate it too, like.
No, I don't hate it. I think that is one of the uh there aren't a lot of movies that I think are in need of a remake. But I feel like Polar Express was at a weird time where it was like right as it came out kind of right as 3D animation was good enough to make a movie out of it,
Mm-hmm.
but before they could make it realistic. And so a lot of the shit that movie gets is because the animation feels so otherworldly.
Yeah.
I feel like if somebody just did a visual remake of that movie, they left all the sound and everything, they just did a shot for shot remake with modern 3D effects.
Well, it's
I think
Zemeckis who did it.
that people
So,
would
I mean,
like that.
it's Zemeckis who did it. So it's like, he could fucking do it. I'd be okay with
Yeah,
that.
that's true. I think that's a movie that could really use a remake
or
only because
a
of the fact that,
remastering, like not even a remake,
yeah,
but even a
yeah,
remastering.
maybe even like call it a remaster, but just because of like the visual fidelity was at such like a weird hinge point, kind of like Tron, where like
Yeah.
Tron, the effects don't hold up because they were on the cutting edge of the beginning of that technology, and they don't hold up today because we have gone gone so far beyond what they were at the time. And Polar Express is kind of in that boat for 3D animation, I think.
It's not really a hot take. I mean,
Okay.
I get it. It would shut people up for like everyone who hates it and tells me like, oh, Bear, that's a terrible. I'm like, no, it's great.
No,
The hot,
it's not a terrible movie. It just looks real goofy.
yeah. It has an interesting look for sure. So, you're number two.
My number two. This is again where I had two, which is like, do I pick the classic one for me, or do I pick the more recent silly one? So I'll give an honorable mention to a bad movie that I love to watch at Christmas time called Silent Night. It's a remake
Oh,
of
damn.
Silent Night, Deadly Night from the mid 2000s, like 2006 ish, maybe 2008 ish. It's a real bad movie that doesn't look good. It has weird special effects. Again, like it was kind of in this weird middle ground where people were starting to use CGI for gore and stuff like that. But I love that. I love watching that movie. But the movie that I'll actually give my number two slot to is Black Christmas, the original holiday
Oh,
slasher.
that's a great one, man. That's a really good one. I love that movie. It's great.
It's one of my favorites of all time. It's such like a creepy movie. Like
Right.
the guy on the phone breathing into it, and the fact that you never find out who he is something that has not been done very often in film.
Yeah, that kind of a cliffhanger that early in film, like too, is just like now people are doing that more often now. Like the original. We're going to talk about cliffhangers here in a second, with some like theories and stuff. But it's just like one of those things I think that's interesting about it. That's cool. Nice pick. My second one is gonna make Terrence Riley cringe because he fucking hates it and it's just so bad. It's too bad. It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, I'm that guy. I think George Bailey is fantastic. Yes, there are holes in the film, Terrence. I get it. The plot line doesn't line up sometimes. It's fine. It's a feel-good story and it's fucking great,
Yeah,
you know. Your life matters, everyone's life
classic.
matters, and your life makes a difference. And it's um I think what this film taught me for a lot of years too is that if you do, it's like the original golden rule film. If you do right by people, if you
Mhm.
treat others the way you want to be treated, like you'll get that in return. And it's, you know, for a guy who always did the right thing and never did anything selfish, you know, as the character goes and as the film goes, you know, like he never did anything for himself. You know, he always did what was right for other people and stuff. And it showed, man. It showed in the end. It was really great. It's freaking awesome. It's a great film. Frank Capra's the
Great
shit.
film.
Yeah, Frank Capra's awesome. He's gonna come up later too for me. I didn't. This is something like we talked about before we started the show tonight, Crip. Is like what's really great is we're not going to get to like every single fucking category, but like what's really fun about this is we can bring up. I should like next time I'm going to bring up like directors. We're going to talk about directors. I think next
Oh
time we
yeah,
do
I
this.
can talk about directors all day.
Yeah. So what's your second pick?
Well,
Oh wait, you already did your second.
my
You did
first
two.
pick.
Yeah. So
You did yours out of order, but that's fine.
yeah.
I won't give you shit about it. My number one, I love this. It's barely a Christmas movie. It's one of those movies that happens to take place at Christmas.
Here we go.
So if you watch it at another time, it's not Die Hard.
Oh, it's not. Oh, okay. You're not going with Die Hard. Okay.
No, it's National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
God,
No,
you
I'm just
son of a
kidding.
bitch. Jesus Christ.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This is an often forgotten movie, but it's become a tradition for us to watch it. Usually every year. Sometimes we miss a year here and there, but it's a fantastic direct detective story, uh, written and directed by Shane Black, who has been all over the place in his career. Speaking of directors, uh, and it's kind of a film noir detective story that happens to take place at Christmas. That at the same time, like it's barely a Christmas movie, but at the same time, it has some of those Christmas feels, and it has like that Christmassy morality tale thing going on.
Right.
I love this movie. I love the noir style of it, and
Yes.
the it has that like that snaking storyline that goes all over the place, and everything that matters is not what you expect. And uh Skip, you said what movie did he say? Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Kiss Kiss
Stars
Bang
Robert
Bang.
Downey Jr. God, I love that movie. That's one of my every year Christmas movie watches.
It's Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is like one, I think is one of Downey Jr.'s like sneaky top 5 performances.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of the roles that kind of turned his career around, because that was,
Yeah.
you know, it was kind of right at the end of his
This
dark times.
the second time. Well, he went through 2 dark periods. That's the
Yep.
thing.
His
Really
later
crazy.
dark period.
Yeah. Which is like ironic. He gives a speech. There's this, you can YouTube the speech. He gives a speech that talks about how he came out of the second one. And there was actually a famous actor that really helped him out and like how to lean on people. And then it was like kind of this like dark comedic moment in the middle of the speech, because he's like, oh, and I got to be there for him during his time. It was Mel Gibson who brought him out.
Mm-hmm.
Mel Gibson who brought him back, of course, and then Gibson has his own demons that he's dealt with in his life.
Yeah.
So it's like, and so he got to full circle. It's got to feel good to it, comedic a little bit, but yeah. So nice. I like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It's a good film. My last one on the list here is I love Die Hard. So I want to give Die Hard some due here at the end, but that's not my number 3. White Christmas, Bing Crosby, Danny fucking Kaye. Yes, you have to say Danny fucking Kaye, as an homage to the worst film ever made for Christmas, which is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Yeah. For anyone who's listening who hasn't heard my hot take about Chevy Chase, he's the world's worst actor. So I'm going to give him his due by being on my show, by mentioning the fact that it's fucking awful. And yes, I watch it every year. I've watched it more than most people have that actually like it now.
That's
because it's become an annual tradition. Thanks, Joe Grow, and all my good friends who put this together every single year for us. But yeah, dude, White Christmas is one of those. It's what I love about it is like it's it takes place about 10 years after World War II. In 1950, it was made just before the 60s and everything. So, but it takes place about 10 years after World War II, and like it's just like the remnant of a better time. It's like what Christmas was supposed to be for me. Like fucking warm fires and sweaters and eggnog and just all that bullshit. And it's, great music, great dancing, great choreography. Rosemary Clooney's in it. She's got an amazing voice, and she's such a freaking talent. And Bing Crosby's unbelievable. And I think, like, apart from like Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin, Danny Kaye, who's just an absolutely talented performer, does a very much a slapstick shtick in this film that's like up there with Chaplin and Buster Keaton. Like, he's just all over the place. He's a goofy dude, but yet when he's dancing and when he's doing stuff, he's just like so graceful at the same time. It's unbelievable. Like, it's just an unbelievable movie. I freaking watch it all the time. It's great. So I'll watch it like not during Christmas time. It's just one of those films. So, but I do want to talk about Die Hard. So I think you and I've had this discussion. So Die Hard, a Christmas film, yes or no?
I mean, yes, because there's Christmassy stuff happening.
Yeah.
If there's Christmassy stuff happening in the movie, it is by definition a Christmas movie because it feels weird watching it any other time.
Yeah, I think
like not that you can't watch those like tertiary Christmas movies in the middle of the summer, but like you see all that Christmas stuff around and you're like, I should be watching this at Christmas.
right. Well, here's the thing. If it was Christmas, if it didn't take place in Los Angeles, if it didn't take place in Los Angeles, if it took place in New York, Chicago, it would very much feel like it would be much more of a Christmas movie. Because like that weather would feels like Christmas.
Yeah.
And Die Hard
a lot
2,
of people, if it's warm out, it can't be Christmas.
Right. And Die Hard 2 is absolutely like the worst Die Hard film, I think. There's my hot take.
Yeah.
Yes. I love the Justin Long Die Hard film.
I was gonna say
better than Die Hard 2.
The reboot one might
Live for your Die Hard
list. Yeah.
Die Harder. They're gonna, I know they're gonna bring him back. Well, they can't because he's sick. Damn it. They're never gonna do another Die Hard. That sucks. They better not remake this with somebody else.
They'll reboot it with somebody.
Oh God, that'll be so fun.
It'll be some 25-year-old kid that was on the Disney Channel a couple years ago.
Ryan Gosling.
No, they'll do it. No, Ryan Gosling's too old now.
Yeah.
When you reboot, it has to be like a 21-year-old kid.
Yeah. Oh God, that would be such a shame.
Nobody's ever heard of over the age of 35.
That'll be sad. Sad day. I do want to give a shout out to an honorable mention. If you've got one too, Tripp, you can. Yes, I watch it. It's another guilty pleasure one, dude. I just think the multiple storylines, the fact that it takes place in a foreign country, because Europeans fucking get Christmas right. I'm sorry. Germans know how to do Christmas. Europeans know how to do Christmas. This one actually takes place in England. Yeah, I love Love Actually. I think it's great.
Yeah,
I've
never been a fan.
I love all the storylines.
It's just a little too sappy for me.
Yeah, it is. It's terrible. It's terribly good. I don't know. I watch it all the time.
Man, I had an honorable mention on the tip of my tongue, and I just forgot what it was. It was like a straight up the middle Christmas. Oh, Elf. Elf is a great Christmas movie. But that's like
Jimmy Caan, man. That's Jimmy Caan.
One of everybody's Christmas movies.
Yeah, it took me a long time because I wasn't the biggest Will Ferrell fan. Still am not.
Yeah.
Really? Like huge super fan. But James Caan is just, I love James Caan. R.I.P. man. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He's great in that film.
Well, let's tackle another category before we get into the presidential trivia segment here. We're going to shift gears here. That's out of holidays. We're going to go to heroes and heroines. So go to I didn't really make a list of, like, I have some characters here, but I didn't say top 3 or anything like that. But I thought we could at least talk about 1 or 2. So favorite, and this is favorite hero character, not necessarily superhero. Okay, yeah. You could pick a superhero if you want, but not necessarily a superhero. So Tripp, I'll let you take the honors on this one.
For me, 2 names immediately came to mind. Ash Williams from Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, Ash versus Evil Dead, all that stuff. He's just a fantastic hero character. But I think like the first name that came to mind was Luke Skywalker. Like growing up being a huge Star Wars fan, he was the ultimate hero. Even though he starts off pretty whiny.
He's a little whiny bitch in the beginning.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of him in New Hope. But like in Empire and Return of the Jedi, he gets so cool and saves the galaxy single-handedly.
Several times. It's really funny because he's balanced out by the cool Han Solo too, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's really great about Lucas is that he makes Han a little bit less cool and a little bit more sappy throughout the 3 films.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So he kind of takes the backseat to Luke and everything. So I think that's really good. I have 3 characters here too. I got an anti-hero that I think is an interesting point of discussion. So it's Hugo Weaving plays V in V for Vendetta.
I have that on my list to talk about at some point tonight.
Oh my God, I love this movie. And that him as a character is just one of my all-time favorites. All-time favorite characters. He's an anti-hero, you know. He and I have another person that I want to mention too. I love there's something really magical about a hero that, yes, rides off into the sunset and and it's the happy ending, right? It's the good thing.
Yeah.
But I love when the hero fucking dies.
I know. It's impactful, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, spoiler, but it's been out forever, so fuck you. If you haven't seen it, you need to, because it's really great, even if you know the ending. But yeah, I freaking love Hugo Weaving does such a great job with this role. I honestly think it's like, I know we're big Lord of the Rings fans. I freaking love him better. I love this role better than the one in LTR.
Yeah,
I really
for
do.
me, that's his best role, even more so than Lord of the Rings and The Matrix.
Yeah.
Like, V is what I think of. And I was a big fan of the comic books way after they came out. Like, they came out in the 89, I think.
Yeah.
Ish. But in the late 90s, early 2000s was when I read the comic books and got really into them. Then I heard they were making a movie, and I was like, Hugo Weaving seems like such a weird choice. And he just crushed it in that movie.
He crushed it. Oh my God.
My wife had never heard of V for Vendetta, and I made her watch that movie when it first came out. And it's one of her top movies of all time.
So I have a really good memory. A lot of people know this, whose audience in the show. I have a really good memory, but I roomed with a guy in college that also had an interesting memory too, especially things that he was like. So we went and saw this movie, and shit you not, like 6 weeks later, I'm writing a term paper, and I'm sitting in my, we're one of those college apartments where we shared a common room, like living room, kitchen. So I'm sitting at the kitchen table and I'm typing a term paper, and I leave my screen open. And like, I don't know, I go do something else. I don't know, maybe go get dinner or something like that. I come back, and he had written the entire V for Vendetta speech from memory on my term paper. And it was just,
wow.
Yeah, the opening soliloquy, like with all the alliteration with V. Like, it's just crazy. Like, he wrote that from memory. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
Like, on my term paper.
Yeah, I definitely, I don't have that kind of memory.
Yeah. So I
can barely quote movies.
I left it in there just for shits. Because I was like, I already had an A in the class and everything like that. But it was just like, I left it in there for shits and giggles. It was great. But for me, like, I think that I wanted to mention an anti-hero, but for me, like, when I think of heroes in the film, like, there are two characters that I go back to all the time. And one is very much, they're both incredible heroes. One is very much an action-packed person who takes matters into his own hands, and another one's the same way, but they do it they couldn't do it any more differently in the way that they do the right thing. And that's, so the first one is Gregory Peck as Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. We're going to talk about one scene in particular here in a second. And the other one is John Creasy, played by Denzel Washington in Man on Fire.
Oh, yeah. God, what a movie.
Those two heroes, like, are my heroes. Like, and they do it such a completely different way. The lynch mob that comes in the middle of the night, and Finch's daughter, Scout, is like watching in the bushes as this man is fucking reading a book by, it's not a candlelight essentially, but like just by a nightlight outside the jail cell. And he stands in front of, like, it's so fucking good.
Yeah.
It's so fucking good. Like, a lot of people knock on the Kevin Costner Wyatt Earp. They prefer Tombstone, the Kurt Russell Tombstone, and the whole Wyatt Earp, like which Wyatt Earp character was better and stuff like that. There's a scene in Kevin Costner's Wyatt Earp where he does the same thing. He stands off with a lynch mob. And I'm like, dude, that's straight up stolen from fucking Harper Lee, dude. Like, that's straight up is an Atticus Finch scene. And but Gregory Peck plays it so cool, and he's so good. and it's just, oh man, he's incredible in that film, and it's a great movie. It's unbelievable. But Denzel is John Creasy in Man on Fire. He is every father that's ever had a child in that role.
Yeah.
And it's ironic because he's not the little girl's father, which is just crazy, right? He's what every person wants to do when something shitty happens.
Yeah. He's that paternal protective instinct.
Yeah.
The embodiment of it.
Yes, like if something happened, you have kids, I have kids. If something happened to one of our kids, like that's the person who we want to become.
Yeah,
like he's freaking incredible in it, and it's such a full. And again, spoiler, he dies at the end too, which is great. For me, I love when heroes die, but yeah, he's such incredible in that role, and like the kind of very Lazarus theme of coming back from the dead, because he was basically, for all intents and purposes, was dead at the very beginning of the film and stuff like that, and he comes back to life through this, his relationship with this little girl and stuff, and it's great. And then life's full circle too, because him and Dakota Fanning just starred together again in Equalizer 3, so like that's pretty cool.
Oh really?
Yeah,
I didn't watch Equalizer 3 yet. I didn't know Dakota Fanning was
she's in it. Yeah, she's in it. It's great. So, but yeah, love this. Any other heroes that you wanted to mention?
No, I mean there's so many, but those were the two that came to mind for me.
Yeah. All right, so heroines.
This was the easiest answer for anything in the whole agenda.
Okay.
For me.
Shoot, fire away.
Erin. She doesn't even have a last name. From You're Next. It's, again, like I said, I lean heavy into the horror. But I mean, first of all, I just love You're Next. It's such a different take on the like home invasion slasher. But then it's this character that you never really learn anything about. But there's implication that she is such a badass and she just gave up that life, doing whatever she did before to just be a college student and be normal. And then she ends up in this situation where she is way too much for these bad guys to handle.
I've never seen it. Holy crap, dude. If it's that good, I need to see it.
You have to watch it. All right. So I'll give you the quick pitch. So it is a home invasion thriller horror movie. And it's got a little bit of like horror comedy, but not enough that you're laughing out loud the whole movie. It's kind of more, it has in-jokes for horror fans. But it's basically these 3 or 4 guys show up and they're killing off all the members of this family. And this girl just keeps fighting back and does not quit. And things don't go well for the bad guys in this movie.
Nice. See,
things don't go well for most anybody, but they definitely end badly for the bad guys because they fuck with the wrong girl.
See, this is what I was really excited about doing the show with you, Tripp, because like you and I both like love different types of films, but we've also, with the exception of this one, like I've also seen like a lot of the same stuff and appreciate a lot of the same stuff, but just from like I don't lean towards the horror, but I've watched it and I appreciate it like immensely. So it's Ben, I got to see this. If you say it's that good, I can't believe I've never seen this, and you're like putting this at the top of your list. It's crazy.
Yeah, she was the first character that came to mind because she's just such a badass, and it's so understated in the movie that she's like this ridiculous badass who can handle her shit,
right?
And nobody had planned on that.
Nice, unbelievable, cool stuff, man. My top pick for this, I have 2 other characters I'm going to mention, but my top pick, you've already mentioned, man. I thought this was going to be a surefire winner. Sarah Connor, Linda Hamilton, Terminator, man, like
one of the classics.
Dude, what a badass! What a badass! She's amazing. She
was my idol when I was a kid.
Yeah,
after seeing Terminator and Terminator 2.
Awesome. So here's my hot take for one of like the best heroines of all time. So I want to drum roll it out a little bit, but this heroine takes on Mother Superior at a convent, a hardened formal naval officer father of many children, also takes on a freaking boatload of kids in it. Oh, and she dukes it out with Nazis at the end of it. Yeah, I'm talking about freaking Julie Andrews as Maria von Trapp in The Sound of Music.
Oh, I was trying to figure out where you're going with it.
Seriously, man, she takes on a fucking nun, a naval captain, a boatload of kids, and fucking Nazis. Like, dude, she's a fucking bamf. Like it's great. I watched my sister forced me to watch this movie so much when I was little, and I just was bored to tears mostly because I'd rather been watching something, like, I don't know, more boyish. But then I secretly like fell in love with the film and the characters. It's just shit. Like, it's just crazy. Like how things like that. Another one too, like she made me watch when I was a kid too, which I hated at the time. But I'll go back and I'll actually watch it every few years. Yes, I'm about to really out myself with this. Anne of Green Gables. My sister used to make me watch that bullshit, and I freaking think it's great. So
I've never actually watched it.
Sound of Music or Anne of Green Gables or both?
Anne of Green Gables.
Yeah, you're not missing anything, Tripp. It's fine. It's not like you have to watch this. But it's just when I was a kid, she would have that was her rewatch. Were these two movies? Mm-hmm. I had tons. So like looking back, my sister suffered a lot more than I ever did. So hats off to Reagan. She was fantastic. She was a trooper. But Dottie Hinson of The League of Their Own, she's played by Gina Davis. Also fantastic heroine. Unbelievable performance by Gina Davis in League of Their Own. Love her. She's great. So great sister, great athlete, good stuff. So awesome. Well, we've got some more categories, guys, but this is a great time to take a break. We're going to go ahead and do our United presidential trivia segment, which is always brought to you by, of course, United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero Garofalo, the Firecracker, and the highly acclaimed Atabey Byron, and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united. Before I ask the question, though, Tripp, you lit up a cigar during that last segment. What did you change it up to?
I'm smoking the Jekyll from Tatuaje because it's monster season. This is the Monster Mash version.
I was going to ask, was that you got the Monster Mash? Okay, cool, nice. That was such a cool box set that Pete did. I loved it. Yeah. Shout out to the Face, being, I think, one of the best cigars in that bunch in the Monster Mash. We were talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre earlier, so shout out to that. But good stuff. Cool. My second cigar, I'm actually going to be lighting up the Byron 1850. I'm going to be doing that here in just a few minutes. So good stuff. So here's the question, Tripp. Multiple choice, of course. Which president ordered the conversion of a cloakroom, also known as the Hat Box, in the White House into a 42-seat movie theater? So which president? Was it A, Dwight D. Eisenhower, B, Franklin D. Roosevelt, C, Herbert Hoover, D, Warren G. Harding, or E, Jimmy Carter? Which president ordered the conversion of a cloakroom into a 42-seat movie theater in the White House?
So I'll start by saying I don't know. I don't have a great background in presidential history. But that seems like a gigantic cloakroom to be able to fit 42 seats and turn it into a movie theater. It must have been enormous.
Right.
A lot of cloaks going in there.
A lot of cloaks. Also known as the Hat Box. So a lot of hats, apparently.
Yeah, I guess so. But to me, it seems like a very Jimmy Carter thing to do. He seemed like a guy who liked movies enough to turn a cloakroom that was not being used as often as people would have liked into a movie theater.
That's a really good guess. Jimmy Carter was actually known to frequent the theater very, very much. Him and Ronald Reagan actually used it quite a bit. So Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan actually had movie nights together. That they would go and watch movies by themselves in this 42-person theater, which is really cool. It's one of the things I really want to do at some point in my life is go watch a movie there. I don't think that'll ever happen or ever be
Yeah, good
possible.
luck.
But like, it's part of the private residence, which makes it probably virtually impossible. But I think it's part of the tour, or at least a tour. So maybe maybe I'll get to see it. I don't know if I'll get to see a movie in it, but that's something I've always wanted to do. But no, the actual real, it's not Jimmy Carter. The real answer is actually Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Wow.
So yeah, Franklin Roosevelt converted the cloakroom into a 42-person theater. So this is 1940. That's when it happened.
Wow. All right.
So yeah, they've apparently watched the like footage from the D-Day invasion, and a couple of other things from World War II. Obviously, were viewed in that theater.
Wow, that's really cool. I didn't know that.
So good stuff. Oh, what's since we're at topic of presidents, is there a presidential movie or a movie about presidents that you really like or not? This wasn't on the agenda. I'm just throwing one out there.
Not one that comes to mind. I'm trying to think who was a good president in a movie. Independence Day is the first one that comes to mind.
Oh, Bill Pullman, dude. The speech.
Yeah, Bill Pullman was a great president in that movie. I don't love that movie, but I love Bill Pullman in it.
You don't love Independence Day, really?
No, I've never been a huge fan. I don't know.
Oh, the remake was trash.
It's also been 20 years or so since I watched it.
The sequel was trash, but yeah, I love Independence Day. When the scientist gets thrown, the doctor gets thrown up against the window, I still jump every time. I've seen it. I watch it every year. Know it's coming. Know when it's coming. Have it timed, and it still startles me. It's crazy. Yeah. But
do you have a presidential movie pick?
Oh man, I'm a big Aaron Sorkin fan.
Mm-hmm.
So
naturally.
So American President is really good. Michael Douglas is the president. It's a rom-com, which is an interesting take from Sorkin, but like,
yeah,
it's it was the precursor basically to The West Wing, which I'm a huge fan of the show. So Sorkin, I follow this Instagram called Sorkinisms. And if you watch a lot of Aaron Sorkin's works over the years, like all the couple TV shows that he's done, the films that he's made or been a part of or written, there's a lot of phrases and vernacular and lines that get used repeatedly in different projects.
Yeah.
And there's so many things taken from American President and inserted into West Wing, which is really funny because so Michael Douglas plays the president, Martin Sheen, who later becomes the president of the West Wing, right? Mm-hmm. Plays Michael Douglas's chief of staff. And then John Spencer plays Martin Sheen's chief of staff. And there's a very, very iconic line in American President says, at some point, someone's going to have to explain to me as president of the United States what the virtue of a proportional response really means. And it's just after they've bombed Libya, apparently in the movie. Martin Sheen says that same line to his chief of staff in West Wing when they've just bombed some country too.
Oh,
so it's this really interesting
up on the connection.
Yeah, there's a crossover. Yeah, and proportional response also comes up again in Trial of the Chicago 7, which was one of the most recent projects that he did for Netflix too. So it's this Sorkinisms kind of find their way throughout all the works that Sorkin's done over the years and stuff. So yeah, I'm a big American President fan. Don't like Annette Bening though. Never been an Annette Bening fan. Just don't like her. Yeah, it was such a shame. They could have gotten anyone else to play her role in The Siege with Denzel, because I'm a huge Denzel Washington fan. I'm an authority on Denzel Washington, I like to say. And The Siege is a great movie because he's in it. It's pre 9/11, which makes it really fucking scary if you watch it from that perspective. And then Annette Bening makes it, infinitely worse. But it's okay. Denzel's there to save her, so it's fantastic. But yeah. Well, that was our presidential trivia segment, always brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Ivana, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, and the highly acclaimed Atabate, Byron, and now Alfonso lines. From selected tobacco, smoke once a day. Start living united. One quick more departure before we get back into the world of film. For the entire month of October, this is the third year that we are doing this segment. My third year, I launched on my birthday 3 years ago. We'll be celebrating my birthday on the 22nd, so next week. I've got a panel of what I like to call my friends. I always bring my friends onto it. You're obviously my friend, Tripp, but I like to always bring a couple of friends on it. Steve Saka will not be reprising his role in my birthday show, much to his dismay. He loves birthdays, not at all, but he does it for me every year. And unfortunately, scheduling conflicts, I think he might have done it on purpose. Maybe, maybe not. But he's always obliged me anyway. We'll be having Steve later on in November as a guest, but he won't be coming on for my birthday show, unfortunately, this year. But I'll have Mike Stevankevich of Postania and Cigar Hustler, and Aaron Nielsen of the Cigar Coop Coalition will be my guest next week. But this is our charity segment that we're going to be celebrating 3 years next week. And for the entire month of October, we're doing Canines for Warriors. It's a great organization that I believed in for a long time. I watch Christmas Vacation every year to support them. That's how much I love this organization, because that film is fucking trash. As I like to say, and Chevy Chase is the worst actor of all time. But I digress, and I get to watch a shitty ass movie with some of my friends, and all the proceeds that we raise that night go to Canines for Warriors. So it's a great organization and everything. So, which you've donated to several times, because you've done the show.
Yes,
You've done the viewing.
Times.
You've done the viewing, several years. So, so on the hot seat, Tripp, do you like it more because you like the actual film, or you just like seeing me squirm for like an hour and a
It's
half?
more seeing you squirm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I thought so. It's fucking terrible, man. It's so bad.
Like, I think it's a funny movie, but I don't love the movie.
Yeah. I think it was Jason who watched it the first year with us, and he fucking had the whole get up. He wore the hat.
Yeah.
He had the flannel. Like, he even had the mug, the moose mug with eggnog. Man, he went all in that night.
I have the mug that I bought specifically to watch.
Oh God, just nuts. That's just crazy, man. But yeah, Canines for Warriors is the organization. Check it out. I'll post it in the comments and in the show notes here later on. But check it out. Great organization. I really believe in veterans and veteran causes, and I absolutely love animals. So it's a perfect combination for me. Canines for Warriors will train dogs specifically to be partnered with veterans who are suffering from PTSD. And it's incredible. And the training that these dogs go through, I mean, it's not as extensive as like some of the other service animals, like Dogs for the Blind and things like that. They do some of that too, but like it's just an incredible organization that does really great work. And it's a smaller organization. So I really, really appreciate everyone who chooses to donate. I really appreciate it. And it goes towards a great cause that I believe in. So and post that in the comments. We'll do in the show notes later on as well. All right, so back to film. So got a couple more questions here to take us through the night here. So we did Heroes and Heroines. This is an interesting one. I'm interested because we've been talking a lot about horror. I wonder if any horror films are going to make it into this category, but scenes from a film that make you cry. Okay. You specifically, like, they're not like, oh, all-time tearjerkers or whatever like that, but
yeah,
scenes from a film that make you cry. It's a top 3. So
I'm not a movie crier. I'll start with that. There are not very many movies that have made me cry. Every once in a while it'll happen. The first 2 movies are all of these are like more recent movies that, because I can't remember any older movies that make me cry on a regular basis. So I said I grew up loving Star Wars, and that carries on to now, and I still will watch anything that says Star Wars on it. Man, I think it's obvious that this category is going to have some spoilers.
Sure.
You may want to skip ahead a minute or two to what after we've talked about this, if you don't want to hear spoilers for a couple of random movies. So Star Wars. In The Force Awakens, Han Solo dies, which I was like, Han's the coolest guy in Star Wars, but I was never attached to him growing up. Like, I had Han Solo toys and stuff, but I was always more of like a Darth Vader Stormtrooper Boba Fett guy. But man, after Han dies and Chewie comes out and just walks up to Leia and hugs him, man, it almost got me just now. Like, just that moment to me is like, man, just, following those characters for 40 years before that movie, it brought up some emotions. And
Yeah.
then again in Rise of the Skywalker, when Leia dies, was like, that was crushing to me, because she was my crush growing up as a kid. And
Yeah, it's death of your heroes, man.
Yeah, the characters just mean so much to me that it, like, Star Wars movies get me, man.
So is that like 1, 2 for you?
Yeah, that's 1 and 2.
Yeah. All right, I'll do 2 as well. So I mentioned Coco earlier as like one of my favorite Halloween films. I will fucking cry every time at the end. The last song, which is Proud Corazon, Miguel, the main character, is there with his family, who's now accepted him for his love of music, and his ancestors are there too, because it's all celebrating Dia de los Muertos. It reminds me so much of my grandmother, and it just like, it takes me back to that. And it just, fuck, dude, I'm the same way right now, dude. Like, I fucking can't do it, man. It's so, I cry every time. I can't get through that song in that movie. I sing that song to my kid. Here's a sappy moment for everybody. I do sing that song to my kids. And I can get through it when I'm singing it to them, which is bizarre. But every time I watch the fucking film, man, I can't do it, man. I can't do it. At the end of every time I watch it, at the end, I freaking cry like a little baby, man. It's nuts. But it just reminds me so much of my grandmother, and I know she's probably watching me and stuff. I don't know. It's crazy, but I love that movie, and the end makes me cry every time. The second one, this is the first time I remember, like, seriously, like, fucking ugly crying in a movie. It was so bad. So I didn't watch it in the theaters, and I lucked out later on in life when they brought it back to a theater, and I got to watch it on the big screen, which was incredible. But I watched it by myself in my living room when I was a teenager, for the first time ever. And the movie is Saving Private Ryan. So yes,
that was
almost
made my list.
So spoiler, Tom Hanks plays Captain John Miller. He's dying on the fucking bridge. Ugly fucking cry. Ugly cry. I can't do it, man. I can't make it through this day. It's so, like, the first time I have ever cried in a film. It was so freaking brutal. And when he, like, pulls in Matt Damon's character and he says, "Earn this," it's like, oh, I'm dude, I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dying. And then fast forward, right, to the future Matt Damon, where the movie starts, and he's at Normandy in the graveyard, and he's at John Miller's grave, and he asks his wife, "Tell me I'm a good man."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, shut the fuck. I'm dead, dude. I'm just, there's nothing left. It's ugly. It's gross. It's disgusting. There's, like, my nose is runny and tears are just falling down. I'm severely dehydrated at this point. It's bad. It's just so bad. It's such a great film. Steven Spielberg did an incredible job with that movie. I mean, it's one of my all-time favorites. So many great characters in it. Vin Diesel, Barry Pepper, Tom Sizemore is incredible in the film. Matt Damon's great. And Tom Hanks, of course, is amazing in it too. And Adam Greenberg is a great supporting actor in that. It's so good. It's such a great film, and it makes me cry every fucking time. Every time.
Love that movie.
So, yeah. So what's your last one?
This is, again, I don't have a huge list to choose from, but this one came to mind immediately, and it's a very recent movie. Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh my God, yes.
That monologue that Ke Huy Quan gives at the end, where he's, I can't remember it word for it because again, I'm terrible at remembering quotes from movies, but his like, just when people don't understand what's going on, just be kind to them. Like, man. And just all, I think part of it is the backstory to that. Like, he was in the Indiana Jones movie when he was a kid
Yeah.
and then didn't act for 20 years. And he said it that like, until somebody came to him and specifically asked him, will you be in this movie for me? He thought nobody cared. Nobody wanted to see him act. Nobody was, he had no chance of coming back to Hollywood.
Right.
And in this one role, it changed the trajectory of the rest of his life because he's back acting again now. And like that behind the scenes moment came to a head at that, in that like little monologue from him. And God, it's just so good.
Yeah, that's a great film. That was so good. I'm so glad I got to see that. And it was, yeah, it brought about a lot of questions too. Like, man, what's this guy been doing? Because he's fucking good. He's such a good actor. Oh man, oh God, it's great. It's great. My last one. So again, Denzel is going to creep up a lot in these shows because, like I said, I'm an authority on him. Before I had kids, this movie made me cry. I refused to watch this for a while after my first son was born because I just knew it was going to kill me. And I finally watched it. The week my second son was born. And it's John Q.
That came to mind when you mentioned Man on Fire. I was like, man,
Yeah.
that movie.
Yeah, John Q. So like, again, spoiler alert and everything. So his son has this debilitating disease. He needs a heart transplant. And it's a classic story, man. Like, John Q, is, Denzel's character is broke. He's flat out broke, doesn't have money, doesn't have health insurance. It's a social commentary for sure on the state of our country and the people with healthcare, healthcare and not healthcare and stuff like that. And it's gut wrenching and everything like that for a lot of reasons. But at the end, when it doesn't look like he's going to get anything, get a heart for everything, his last resort is to kill himself so that his son will live.
Yeah.
And it's
gut-wrenching movie.
It's total gut wrench, man. And it's just every time I cry, even though I know in the end he doesn't kill himself. So it doesn't end up happening, but the kid gets up getting the heart anyway. So like that part's a feel good moment, but it's the scene where he's about to shoot himself. And I'm just like, oh. And one of the nurses or whatever who's in there and is about to witness it, she's crying. And James Woods, who plays the doctor who's going to perform the surgeries, and there's like, if you're going to be like that, then get the hell out. It's just like, oh God, it's going to happen. He's going to do it. It's such a powerful moment still too, like to this day. Like I know how it ends. Like I know he doesn't kill himself, and it's still like so convincing that he's going to sacrifice for his son. Like it's still like, it just rips my heart apart, man.
Yeah, that's a hard movie to watch.
Oh,
I haven't watched that movie since I had kids either, though.
Yeah, dude, it's tough, man. I've only watched it once since. It's like I can't do the rewatch. Like, and I think Denzel's brilliant. It's just one of those things. So, cool. All right. So moving on to a little bit happier of a scene. So as we've talked about several times on the shows over the years, Tripp and I are opposites in the sense I'm very much into sports, very much into baseball, love film. We love film together, but I love sports. He does not.
Not a sports guy.
Yeah. I enjoy music, just not a big music buff and everything. So I thought this next category would be a little interesting. So favorite sports movie for Tripp, favorite music film for me. So, so Tripp, do you want me to go first, or did you want to go first?
I can go first. I again again, like for the fifth time tonight, I made a list because I can't just pick one. Um, I do want to give an honorable mention to a movie that just came out that I had very low expectations for, but turns out it's a great sports movie. Is Gran Turismo.
Oh shit, you've seen it?
Like,
I haven't seen it
yeah,
yet. It's really good. Oh, cool.
it's really good. It's
Played the game
I
all the
thought it
time.
was gonna be I thought it was gonna be like a cheesy, like Fast and Furious, Need for Speed kind of movie where it's just car action. It's an action movie, but with cars. But it's really a story about this kid who, the real story of this kid who won a contest and became an actual race car driver. But it's like a very surprisingly grounded story that's feels like a sports movie that happens to be motorsports and not normal sports. All right.
Interesting. I
I have a
didn't know.
couple.
I had low expectations for it too. So if you said it's good, I'm interested to see it now. I haven't seen it yet.
I was really surprised by how good it was. I watched it like a week ago. But again, I watched so many movies that like I have a recency bias because I have such a bad memory. But so sports movies. I'll give honorable mention to Slapshot. Love that movie.
Oh, good stuff.
Happy Gilmore, of course. Like that's one of the quintessential movies of my childhood. Um, Mean Machine, which is a British remake of The Longest Yard about soccer instead of football.
Oh,
That's
okay.
incredible. It's very like it stars a lot of the same people that were in like Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and
Oh,
it kind of
nice.
shares that style with those movies. It's really good. Um, man, which one am I gonna pick? All right, I get honorable mention goes to The Wrestler, which is sort of a sports movie,
Yeah,
but
Mickey
an
Rourke's really great in that
incredible
film, dude.
movie.
Yeah, he's really great in
Um,
that film.
but the one that like still lives in my head to this day is The Sandlot. That
Yes.
movie was like I've probably I haven't watched it in 20 years and I've probably seen it 100 times.
Yeah. So they're doing a tour right now. I almost went to it for my birthday this year. The cast is doing this tour where they do like a panel discussion on the movie. So
Oh,
these
really?
kids have all grown
That's
up.
awesome.
Yeah, and stuff. Yeah. Squints leads the panel, and like different people have been in too. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah. I almost went. I didn't make it, unfortunately, but yeah, everyone is. I've know a lot of people who've gone to see it, and they said it was great. So good stuff. I love The Sandlot. Great film. Um, so yeah, for me, for music, I made a list as well because this is really kind of hard. I think one of the most underrated films of the 80s was Amadeus. And I think that Tom Hulce, who's was in Animal House, that's where he kind of made his famous friend and stuff, plays
Mhm.
Mozart, plays Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and he's it's such a great performance. F. Murray Abraham is brilliant in it as the villain, and it's just a really well done film that I really enjoy. It's just about music, but not really. Mr. Holland's Opus, Richard Dreyfuss
Mhm.
is great. That's from you mentioned The Sandlot, so I think that the Sandlot and the Mr. Holland's Opus is kind of like the same pick, two different categories for me. But the two movies that I come back to and I rewatch quite a bit that have to do with music, and I think are just really great. One's kind of is an epic saga of one man's life, the demons that he beat, and how for his entire life he sought after love and just could never find it until he met the woman of his dreams, and even that wasn't something easy. It's when he met June Carter Cash, and it's Walk the Line with Joaquin
Yeah.
Phoenix. I think he plays Johnny Cash incredibly well. I love the movie. The music's incredible. He does a great job of really capturing the essence of Johnny Cash. And we're going to talk about lines in a minute, but like Why is he wearing all black? Is he going to a funeral? Maybe I am. The maybe I am I use all the time. It's just in just regular, like everyday vernacular, just all the time. But I love it. But I tell you what, I think one of the best made films, and of probably the last 10 years. I believe it was made in the last 10 years. I don't think it was I think it came out in like 2014, so I think it's like 9 years old now, 2014, 2015. But I mean, really put this kid on the map, and now he's become like the actor, and probably one of the most underrated actors of our generation is also in a starring role in it, and that's Whiplash with Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons. I think J.K. Simmons is one of the most brilliant actors that of all time. He's so underrated. He came to acting later in life. Like I know him as Dr. Skoda from Law and Order. Like he did that role for fucking 20 years. And then all of a sudden he started popping up in films, and he does comedies, and he's funny, he does dramas, and he's brilliant, and like he's
a fucking M&M.
He's
the yellow M&M.
Oh, that's
like,
right.
M&M
yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Holy shit. I forgot that he was the voice.
The range on that guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable, dude. He's the Tom Hanks without the charm. Like he's got that range, right?
He's mean Tom Hanks.
Yeah, he's mean Tom Hanks. But Miles Teller is just freaking brilliant. And Whiplash it's incredible film. It's incredible.
This was the first movie I thought of when I saw that category.
Yeah. It has to be. Like in the last 10 years, there's no better. Like it's arguably one of the best films in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Like period. Like fuck music. Like just one of the best films.
Agreed.
It's just incredibly well done. And both those actors are like they're top of their game. And so yeah, shout out to Whiplash. Good stuff, man. Great. Cool. So this one's gonna be fun because again, like I quote movies all the time. You can't remember quotes. So I thought this would be an interesting kind of category.
It's funny because I quote movies all the time. I just don't remember like the ones that I go back to all the time.
Yeah. So the category is what quotes that you use in everyday conversation continuously, like over the years have. So I have several. I'll start this off with my brother and I basically our conversations consist of basically like reenacting The Departed, all the time. Like we'll just fucking shout lines from The Departed all the time. It's like, world needs plenty of bartenders. 2 weeks with pay. Like it's all the time. There's all Departed lines, constantly. Not really an everyday conversation. We just fucking reenact the film every time we're together. It's just great. But what are some of yours?
I've definitely hundreds and hundreds of times said, if X is cool, then I'm Miles Davis.
Nice.
From not Happy Gilmore, the other one. Billy Madison. I don't know. There's a lot that I think that aren't coming to top of mind right now.
Adam Sandler has so many quotable
so many quotable lines
like they get used, and I think it's underrated because like for a lot of time he caught a lot of shit for just making like the same, like being the same character in like a bunch of different films and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But or being like he kind of played. It's unfortunate because he kind of played second fiddle to Jim Carrey during the same era, right? Like is that top comedic actor, but they're both fucking zillionaires from all the films that they did. Like it's just, I don't know. I think Adam Sandler's hilariously funny. I love a lot of his movies. Yeah, it's good stuff. I quote The Godfather 2 all the time.
Oh, that's another one.
Hyman Roth. This is the business we've chosen. I say that all the time. I'm a manager, and my day job And I repeat that fucking line to my team all the time when they're like, especially when they like complain or bitch about something, like, this is the business we've chosen.
I like that.
And it sails over their heads because they're a bunch of fucking like Xennials and shit. So like they don't they Gen Z, they don't really, and they don't get them. Like I've got one person on my team, bless her heart, man. She hasn't seen like any movies, like period. Just this would be the worst,
I know
worst
people
fucking
like
pod.
that are like it's like, yeah, I just don't watch movies.
Yeah, this
It's
would
too
be like the
long.
worst fucking pod for her to listen to because she'd be like all of this shit would go over her head. Like she's never seen anything. Like never seen Office Space. Never saw either Top Gun.
Office Space is very quotable.
Yeah, Office
Very,
Space.
like, I use quotes from Office Space a lot.
Yeah,
Uh Clerks, Clerks
Clerks.
and all the Jay and Silent Bob movies. I use quotes from those a lot. I'm Not Supposed to Be Here Today is one
Yeah,
of my favorites.
yes. Uh, I mentioned how I'm not like necessarily a Will Ferrell fan, but The Anchorman is probably one of the most quotable movies
Yeah,
that he's ever done.
for sure.
That escalated quickly.
Hmm.
Like that's something that I use all the time. It's just crazy.
I say So Much Room for Activities a lot
So
from
much
Step
from
Brothers.
Step Brothers. Um, Poor Juan Cancel, man. Talk about a joke that went wrong on online one time, man. But he was talking about I guess Eric Guitarson from Cigar Dojo was in Nick Perdomo's office with, Nick's got those amazing drums.
Yeah.
Like those just gorgeous sets that are like that he's either had done specifically for him and stuff. And he's a hell of a drummer to boot and stuff. And
Yeah.
talk about not landing a joke. Juan's like, hey, did you did you rub your nuts on them? Like, oh man, if you haven't seen the movie, dude, bad reference, man, just bad. Like, just oh god, didn't land. It was poor guy. Didn't land the joke, but and but the but yeah, Step Brothers is one of those great ones too. Like, I just um his cameo in Wedding Crashers is great. Mom,
Hmm.
Meatloaf, we want it now. Like, it's just like it like those are comedies are probably the ones that you quote all the time too. Like
Yeah, they're easy to
like
quote.
like Office Space and everything. Like here's a comedy that is probably really I think it's pretty iconic. Especially since I think we were kids when we first saw it because it came out when we were kids. Um but um I mean you make it fit the moment. You don't necessarily quote it verbatim, but you make it fit the moment whenever it is. It's hello, my name is Indigo Montoya. You killed my
Yeah.
father. Prepare to die. Like from Princess Bride. Mandy Patinkin just crushes that line, crushes that role. And it's so good. And that movie is fantastic. The Princess Bride's
Hmm.
great.
It's a required quote. Anytime you have one of those tiny swords with an olive on it,
Yes,
like, it's
you have
required.
you have to say it. Yeah. Or anytime you're like playing swords with your kids, you say the same shit. Like anytime you have a
Yeah.
sword in your hand of any kind, size or shape.
Yeah, I guess
It's
that's true.
yeah,
But
you
most
have to.
often, the sword that I have is a tiny cocktail sword.
Yes, yeah, exactly. When you're drinking a martini, you have to quote Mandy Patinkin from Princess Bride.
Yeah.
Um, this is a really obscure one. This is super, super obscure. But I use it all the time in everyday vernacular because it's like it really brings me back to just living in the moment and trying to get through problem solving the way that it has to happen. And so for anyone who's seen Apollo 13, spoiler alert, they didn't make it to the moon. Sorry. But Tom Hanks is in it. It's Bill Paxton, Kevin Bacon, Gary
Man, we're
Sinise.
spoiling all the movies
Yeah, I
today.
know. So, well, that's historical. Like, seriously, if you've watched Apollo 13 and you're expecting them to make it to the moon, I'm sorry, you're going to be sorely disappointed.
Yeah.
You just read a fucking history book. But Tom Hanks says like they're trying to make it back to Earth, obviously, and like they're having him and Bill Paxton are having a discussion, and then Kevin Bacon comes in and interrupts him and says, "We're there's this huge fucking problem down the line, like way down the line, it's going to be a huge deal. We're not going to make it essentially." And they start arguing, bickering back and forth, and he says, "You know, Gentlemen, we're not going to do this. We're not going to go bouncing off the walls for 10 minutes and then end up right back where we started. There's 1,000 things. This is the quote. There's 1,000 things that have to happen in order. We're on number 8. He says to Kevin Bacon, he's like, you're talking about step number 792. And again, it's so obscure, right? It's such a throwaway line, you know, in all the iconic lines of film throughout the history of film, right? It's like, Bear, really? You picked out? In everyday life, there is nothing more vivid and more applicable than that line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you like so many things. Like even today, like I was thinking about, like, I'm going out of town for a conference. I've got all this stuff to do, and I'm thinking about all of it. I'm like, Jesus, man. I'm like, I have 1,000 things to do, and I'm on number 8, and like, I'm thinking about 792. Like, it's just, yeah, it's just one of those things. So cool stuff. Awesome. Any more?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Not that I can think of right now. I'll let you know if one comes up.
Yeah, no worries.
That I remember.
All right. So I thought this was be an interesting venture because, again, you know, we were obviously born in the 80s. We came, you know, we've been talking in particular. I mean, I've mentioned a couple of films maybe, but not really. Most of the films we've been talking about in the last 25 or 30 years.
Yeah.
But I thought it'd be a really interesting top 3 movies released before 1970. And I chose 1970 specifically because I didn't want to include The Godfather. Because The Godfather would make my list even, you know, list obviously. So so top 3 movies released before 1970. I'll go. Yeah, go ahead, start.
No, I was saying do you want to
start? Sure. Yeah, I can start. We did a show a couple weeks ago with Fred Rui, Sam Spencer, and I, celebrating the 80th anniversary of this film. I fucking love Casablanca, dude. It's amazing. It's an amazing film. Unbelievable. Humphrey Bogart is amazing in it. Claude Rains is my favorite character. And I specifically, in the hero question, I specifically did not pick Richard Blaine simply because, like, I don't think he's the best character in the film. Like, Claude Rains as the captain is just unbelievably unbelievable in that. So but yeah, Casablanca is my number 1. Absolutely. Hands down.
Nice. My number 1 is Psycho.
So good.
I love that movie. I always have. I can't recall the name of the movie because it's just all numbers, but it's like 122/80 or something like that. But it's about I believe it's 122 cuts in the shower scene. It's an entire documentary just about that, like 15-second, maybe 40-second scene that has 122 cuts, and it's just all about, like, I watched a 2-hour documentary about one shot,
one scene,
that had a bunch of cuts.
He's that brilliant, dude. He's that brilliant. Like, I don't think people understand how great Hitchcock is. Like, Vertigo, Birds is fucking insane. It's fucking insane. How the fuck do you do that now? Oh yeah, you do it with CGI. He did that shit
for real. At least as real as it could be.
Yeah.
Some double exposures and stuff like that, but
yeah, but unbelievable. Nice. My next one is, so I told Frank Capra, I told you I'm a huge fan of his. Like, It's a Wonderful Life was on my list earlier, but my all-time favorite Frank Capra film is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Mm-hmm.
James Stewart is brilliant in that. Claude Rains is in that movie too. So Claude Rains, shout out to Claude Rains, making 2 on my top 3 before 1970. Yeah, but Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. I will rewatch that film all the time. So good. So good.
Great movie.
Mm-hmm. What's your next one?
I'm figuring that out. King Kong.
OG King Kong.
The OG King Kong. I rewatched it just a couple years ago, and I was surprised by how well that movie holds up. The special effects look crazy now because they're stop motion animation and weird double exposures and stuff like that. But like that movie holds up. And
Yeah,
it's from almost 100 years ago.
it's crazy, right?
Yeah. But it's a great movie still to this day.
I love it, man. I think I saw it a couple years ago too. Again, I think I've probably seen it maybe 6 or 7 times. It's really great.
Mhm.
It's really great. Awesome, man. Great pick. My last one, dude. Shout out to my dad for all the years of freaking John Wayne films we used to watch. It's still my favorite John Wayne movie. Made in 1959. John Wayne, Dean Martin. It's not even fuck it. It's not even John Wayne's best film. I don't care. But I've rewatched it easily 100 times. Easily 100 times, probably more. My son now loves it, which was not intentional, but freaking it's great. Is Rio Bravo. So Rio Bravo, John Wayne, Dean Martin, Ricky Nelson, Walter Brennan, Ward Bond, just unbelievable little Western and stuff. Unfortunate role from Angie Dickinson, who's in it. She plays the love interest for John Wayne. It's the worst fucking part of the film. I don't care. She can be in it. Doesn't matter. Fucking love it. Rio Bravo, dude, for the win. Yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah, honorable mention for me is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, because Paul Newman and Robert Redford are fucking stellar in that.
Yeah. My last pick is going to be Night of the Living Dead. The OG.
Oh my gosh, dude, that's right. Oh my God.
It kicked off the whole zombie craze by reinventing what the word zombie meant.
Mm-hmm.
And legacy continues.
So good. For my Halloween pick, I almost put Shaun of the Dead on there.
Good movie.
I think it's great. I think those guys, Simon Pegg's just brilliant. I really don't think he gets his due.
Yeah, I agree. I forgot he was in. I started watching Band of Brothers again this week because a buddy was mentioning it, and I was like, "Man, I got to watch that again." I forgot he was in Band of Brothers.
That's right. I forgot that too. What's your favorite Simon Pegg film? Just since he came up, it's got to be Shaun of the Dead, right? You're the horror guy.
I think it's Shaun of the Dead. He's done a couple other great movies, but I think it's Shaun of the Dead.
Where's The World's End for you on the list?
I think it's up there. I for the Cornetto trilogy, I would rank Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, World's End.
So yeah,
It's the worst of the three, but it's still good.
It's the worst of the three. I still love it. I flip-flop Hot Fuzz for me. Hot Fuzz was interestingly, for the first time I watched it, was such a slow burn, and then the last fucking 30 minutes of that film are just hilarious. The action scene, the final shootout is just unbelievable. And then I went back and rewatched it like a few dozen more times I fucking love that film. It's so good. And then Shaun of the Dead's amazing. But yeah, I love Simon Pegg. I think he's great. Good stuff. Okay, cool. All right. We've got a couple more categories to cap off the evening here. So I thought this was an interesting list that came up. So according to movieweb.com, they did a list. They did a compilation list starting in the year 2000, I believe. And they picked the best movie from each year. And I was like, okay, Gladiator was on for the year the Gladiator came out. I was like, okay, good. We did that, like blah, blah. And so 2005 comes out. And I thought this was interesting because knowing you as well as I do.
Yeah.
And I have all the list. I have the entire list of movies that came out in 2005.
I made my own list of movies that came out that year that I think are better.
Yeah. So according to movieweb.com, the best movie to come out in 2005 was Star Wars Episode 3. What's it called? The
Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith.
Which is the best of those three movies. But that's not saying a lot.
Yeah,
those movies have aged terribly.
They've gotten so much shit,
and
especially from Star Wars films. Yeah. My heart still goes out to Phantom Menace. I have no idea why. I think, I don't know. I have no idea why I like it. It's like
the fight scene at the end. It's the fight scene at the end.
It has to be.
What are they? What's that song
The pod
called?
race scene's pretty good too. Like for its
Yeah,
time.
this
For its time.
is pod racing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the Duel of the Fates. The Duel of the Fates makes that movie. Like that part at the end where Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are fighting Darth Maul and Duel of the Fates is playing. That is what makes that movie to me. There's actually a fan edit where it's actually been done several times. Topher Grace from that 70s show very famously got into editing and made his own edit of the prequel trilogy.
Oh, nice.
His has never been shown publicly, but there are 5 or 6 different people who have done their own fan edits of it.
Yeah.
Every one of them starts off with that scene and ignores the rest of that movie.
Nice. Nice.
There's a list of movies that came out in 2005.
I'll just mention one that we've already talked about tonight.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite films of all time. V for Vendetta came out in 2005.
Yeah,
phenomenally better than this film. Like,
yeah, phenomenally better.
Like
Sin City, which was
Sin City.
It holds a special place in my heart because I loved the comics and was so excited for one of my favorite filmmakers to make a movie out of it. And he did an amazing job of translating from the page to the screen. I don't know if it's the best movie of that year, but I think it's better than Star Wars.
Dude, there's so many. I have a list as well.
Hostel, The Descent.
Hostel.
I mean, those are just like the ones that I don't know if they're better, but they notably came out the same year.
Batman Begins.
That was one of the ones that was on my list. That was like, how is that not the one?
So here's my hot take about this.
Grizzly Man was like a whole thing, and that came out that year.
Right. So
I mean, I guess it was a documentary, so maybe it doesn't count, but still.
My hot take on Christian Bale's Batman is I love The Dark Knight. I think it's brilliant. I think it's incredible, and I think Heath Ledger's performance of that is one for the books for all times, right? My hot take is I like Batman Begins better.
Yeah, I think it's a better movie.
The Kingdom of Heaven, Orlando Bloom.
Oh yeah,
Liam Neeson, also really good. For me as a child, I love the books, The Chronicles of Narnia. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is great, and that's the movie. Movie came out in 2005. Here's one for you. Shout out to Tim Burton. Corpse Bride. Corpse Bride came out in 2005. Wedding Crashers, we mentioned that earlier. Controversial, Jarhead. Controversial movie to come out. Probably the most controversial movie to come out. Probably within 15 years at that time. Now it's 2023. It's a different age, and a film like this could come out. But in 2005, Brokeback Mountain comes out.
Oh yeah,
and just shakes the world.
Yeah,
Ang Lee, from a filmmaking standpoint, and I've watched the film. Yes, I have. From a film perspective and a film standpoint, just does a great thing with, I think he does a great thing with imagery in that movie.
Yeah.
Just like the way he shot the scenery and stuff like this, and every, it just, other than the story and everything, I'm not trying to back myself out of it or anything like that. I mean, it's just, the story is what it is, but it's like the other things surrounding the film, like we talked about the aesthetics of filmmaking and stuff like that. I think Ang Lee is probably one of the most underrated filmmakers. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is still an incredible film.
Great movie. Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I think it's
I'd say Star Wars wins.
Munich, Eric Bana.
Oh man,
that's such a good film.
Was a movie.
Yeah, such a good film. Walk the Line, we mentioned that one, also came out in 2005. And there's another one too.
Oh, the King Kong remake.
The King Kong remake.
That
That's
was a
right.
huge, like, Peter Jackson making a movie that's not Lord of the Rings. Like, that was a huge deal. And that movie was fantastic. It was a little slow at parts, but I think it's a great movie.
The Fantastic Four with Jessica Alba, Chris Evans. That came out that year too, for all the sci-fi fans out there. The Island. Here's a movie that I absolutely like for all your soccer fans out there. Charlie Hunnam and Elijah Wood, The Green Street Hooligans. Also
I
came
loved
into
that movie.
Yeah, it came out in 2005 as well. Transporter 2. For all you musical fans out there, Rent. Rent came out 2005. Memoirs of a Geisha. Also really well made film.
I forgot about that movie.
Yeah, that came out in 2005. Like I said, I have a list, dude.
I can't believe whoever these movie web people are ranked.
Yeah.
Star Wars Episode 3 above all these.
Cinderella Man, which is, I think, is a really underrated Russell Crowe film.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable performance. Paul Giamatti is incredible in that movie. Lords of Dogtown also came out in 2005.
Great movie.
Coach Carter. Can't never go wrong with Samuel L. Jackson.
Man, we got to get the people from Movie Web on here so we can argue with them about this point.
Here's one for you. The Fog. The Fog came out in 2005.
Great movie.
Yeah.
The Mist, which gets confused very often. But...
Yes, it does. It does. The Mist is much better. Man, that's a fucked up film. Jesus Christ, that's so fucked up. Get Rich or Die Trying. Shout out to 50 Cent. shout out to Philip Seymour Hoffman, R.I.P. Capote.
Oh yeah,
so good. Such a good film.
Man, how did all these Oscar-winning and Oscar-nominated movies not stand up to?
I don't know. Flight Plan, Jodie Foster. I'm still like, I have a list. Here's one of my favorite films all the time. I rewatch this film all the time. Now it has to do with cigarettes instead of cigars, but I find so much of it so applicable to social discussion around tobacco. Thank You for Smoking, Darren Eckhart.
Love that movie.
Came out in 2005. Great film. Fucking hilarious too. I have more. Yes.
The Longest Yard remake came out in 2005. Not the I mentioned another remake of it, but this is the American remake.
Four Brothers Adam Sandler with Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, that was a great movie.
Shout out to Tyrese Gibson, who's one of my favorite, like, underrated actors of all time. Garrett Hedlund, Andre Benjamin, or Andre 5000, as he's known as. Let's see. A movie that Revenge of the Sith was definitely better than was Elektra. Sorry. Was better than that one. I will give that. I wanted to mention that. Hustle and Flow with Terrence Howard and Ludacris.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Anderson, Taraji P. Henson. So good. Unbelievable film. I think I had. Oh, Triple X State of the Union. Revenge of the Sith was definitely better than that film too. So there were films made in this year that were not better than those. David Stratham and George Clooney, Patricia Clarkson, Good Night and Good Luck. And because I'm a Boston Red Sox fan, Fever Pitch also came out in 2005 too. Just want to point that out. So yeah,
I did see that on the list. And
that was the last one I was going to mention. I was like, yeah, and yes, Fever Pitch is better than Revenge. I literally went down because I remember 2005 was a big, like, I went and I saw every movie that I listed. I saw in the theaters. I want to point that out. I saw every single of those movies in the theaters. I did see Revenge of the Sith in theaters too. I just don't get movie web people. Like, holy shit, dude. Like, how?
Like, what is their criteria?
I have no idea.
I need an explanation for this.
In the explanation, they said the second runner-up was Chronicles of Narnia, which I appreciate. The Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe. I mean, I enjoyed that film. I own it. Yes, I do. And I, but like, duh.
What planet are they on?
I have no idea. They got, I mean, in the other parts, like other parts of the list was like, oh, that's great. Like they chose Gladiator for the year it came out. I was like, oh, that's good. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just terrible, terrible take. But I thought that was funny just because I was sifting through stuff and I was like, oh, I got to bring this up because you're a Star Wars guy.
Yeah.
But I know how you feel about the first 3 chapters too. So
yeah.
Cool. All right. So last couple segments of the night, we're going to do this or that. So these are all, of course, related to films. I normally mix it up with some other stuff, but I thought this would be fun little take. So again, the whole point of this or that trip, you pick one. It's kind of a rapid fire. So 2 things. Here we go. So Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Arnold.
Oh,
I've
really?
Been an Arnold guy. Yep.
Always been an Arnold guy. Okay.
I think it mostly comes back to Predator and Terminator.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I'm more of a Stallone guy. It goes back to Rocky for me.
Understandable.
Okay. Watching movies at home or in the theater?
Theater in theory. But theater doesn't always it's not always all it's cracked up to be. It's got to be the right theater. They've got to have good screens, good seats, not obnoxious people. Like if I'm talking about Alamo Drafthouse, then theater every day. But
right.
Sometimes you go to the theater and you got people yelling at the movie and stuff like that.
Yeah. How do you feel about clappers? Clappers in the theater?
It depends what you're clapping for.
Yeah. Comedies, I think so, but like dramas and stuff that people will clap at like a really moment. Like, dude, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out.
Yeah, no. Go.
All right. I think this one's easy, but I'm interested to hear your opinion on black and white or 3D films.
I think black and white, because black and white is and can be a stylistic choice. And 3D has always been a gimmick. There are a couple of movies that are non-gimmick 3D, but just about everything is gimmicky 3D.
I hate watching 3D films. I gotta be honest, dude. It's black and white for me easily, but I hate watching 3D films.
I have no problem watching 3D movies. I enjoy 3D movies. But if we're talking Friday the 13th Part 3, where like he stabs the eye and the eye comes out into the camera.
Yeah.
Like if you can watch that at home on your TV and pinpoint and say, oh, that's a 3D moment. Like it's bad 3D. Black and white is consistent.
So I'll tell you a memory from my childhood about 3D. Okay. So check this out. So this was in the 90s, right? Early 90s. And this was like with network television, right? So it's a big fucking deal. Like cable wasn't what it was. Like it was, cable television existed, but nowhere is near the monster that it is today, right?
Yeah.
Well, actually, cable TV's even jumped the shark. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I was like, what did I do? Because I set my water down and suddenly I had no sound. And I was
so Hondo was this big, like they were bringing this back. They were bringing back Hondo for network television premiere, right? So John Wayne, this was a big ta-da leading up to it. 7-Eleven gets into this mix. 7-Eleven. So if you buy a Slurpee, you get the 3D Hondo glasses because they were going to broadcast Hondo in 3D. Okay. Anyone who's met my father understands like technology and him kind of like this, but he was all about this event. Like we were going to be able to stay up late and watch it. He was going to tape it. Yes. Tape VHS and took us to 7-Eleven to get Slurpees so we could all get the 3D glasses. Right. And I didn't quite understand. I was like, what do you mean? Like, he's like, yeah, you're going to put these glasses on and stuff's going to pop out at you. And he's like, and my dad was like a kid in the candy store waiting for this event to happen. And he's like, there's 2 scenes that are going to be so great. And there's a scene where John Wayne's character is fighting one of the chiefs from the Indian tribe in hand-to-hand combat. And he's like, there's a scene where John Wayne thrusts a knife at the Native American chief, and he's like, this is going to be great. And we were gearing up for this one scene. There's another scene with spears too, but it was this one scene leading up to it. And John Wayne jumps out of the TV with a knife in his hand, and just like all of us like sitting there on our couch, just jump back. One of my all-time favorite movies, one of my all-time favorite memories as a child. Like, just remember this entire thing that kind of led up to it. So anyway, outside or inside watching film?
Inside.
So drive-through movie theaters have no interest for you, or watching a movie on your porch or patio?
I would say they have interest. I've never been to a drive-through.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Apparently, I found out recently one reopened in Oregon after I moved out.
Oh, bastards.
Yeah. So, and they were like, they did Evil Dead 2 a couple of weeks ago. They did Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They did Carrie 2. They've been doing like horror movies all October.
You're like, damn it.
I moved away at the wrong time.
Yeah. Missed your moment. I like watching movies anywhere. But I really enjoyed, so shout out to Sam Spencer, couldn't be here tonight. But he's the one that's done all the film movies with us and stuff. The three of us did Lord of the Rings together and stuff like that. We'll be doing Return of the King later this year. Yes, got to complete the saga. We decided we probably are not going to do The Hobbit. It's probably not going to happen.
I can barely sit through the first Hobbit movie.
So it's probably not going to happen.
In the Shire, like, rubs me real the wrong way. I hate it.
But this next question is for, but I did watch, Sam and I, we had a real raucous night. Let me tell you, we watched fucking Casablanca and smoked cigars one night. So nice. Yeah, it was a real barn burner. Let me tell you, but, shout out to Sam for that. But the next question is Luke Skywalker or Frodo Baggins?
You know me, Luke Skywalker.
It's Luke Skywalker. I knew after when you said it earlier, I was like, oh, he's already got this one picked. So here's an interesting one. I thought this was funny. There was like this stretch of movies in the early 2000s and early aughts that like came out where like two movies came out at the same time, and they were like basically very similar plot lines. It was just really weird. This was one of the most like these movies were released like 3 weeks apart from each other. It was crazy.
So I actually read about this recently, and it was apparently, like, for a long time, it was a marketing strategy where it was like, basically, you know, scripts get shopped around, and once Fox hears that Sony bought the script for movie X, they're like, all right, well, we didn't want to make it, but let's make a better one.
Right.
And it was like a marketing strategy where it was like, well, if we keep making a movie that's better than their version, no matter what it is, we'll be on top. And it didn't really work out that way, but it made for a weird time. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So these two movies came out like literally 3 weeks apart. We were talking about, mentioned Frodo Baggins a second ago. Of course, it starred, you know, a character made famous by Elijah Wood. Elijah Wood was in a movie called Deep Impact, which ran right up against at the time a much more blockbusteristic movie. Mostly, I would say, because of the cast and the soundtrack. But Armageddon. So Armageddon and Deep Impact come out like 3 weeks apart from each other. Which one? Deep Impact or Armageddon for you?
I think Armageddon, but it's been so long since I've seen either one.
I am so much a Deep Impact person.
I have more fond memories of Armageddon, but that may be mostly the soundtrack. The marketing may have worked on that one.
Yeah, so he's really come back for me as an actor and filmmaker in recent years. But like after Good Will Hunting, Ben Affleck went down the fucking money train and just I just couldn't for the longest time. I mean, Forces of Nature, Jiggly, and like just Reindeer, just really fucking bad movies. Matt Damon, thank God, went the high road and also made some great stuff, but holy crap, Ben Affleck in this, Liv Tyler, Bruce Willis, Owen Wilson, Michael Clark Duncan. I mean, the cast is fucking star-studded. It's nuts. But like for me, Deep Impact's really great. There's like Morgan Freeman plays the president, which at the time was like also very controversial. Like we hadn't had a black president yet.
Yeah.
So very foreshadowing there. Elijah Wood, Robert Duvall's in it. Great performance from him, I think. Téa Leoni plays one of the main characters. And so I freaking love Deep Impact. I think it's great. I think it's the more realistic of the two because they kind of get into the weeds with how like preparation and things like that is I don't know.
Okay.
So for me, I like Deep Impact. Really good.
Yeah, I think it was still the 90s the last time I watched either of these movies.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, all right. So here's a big time movie. So there for the longest time, and I need to actually reevaluate what movie it is for me on this. But there's always that one movie that you're like, people make fun of you for never seeing. And for years for me, since it came out, I didn't see Avatar until this summer.
Really?
I had never seen Avatar until this past summer. So I need to reevaluate my list and remake my list of what's the movie that everyone's going to make fun of me for never seeing.
Yeah.
But Avatar was like a movie that I'd never seen, and I saw it on the airplane. We were flying over to Scotland earlier this year, and I watched it for the first time. So I've now seen it. So here's the question about Avatar: is it a game changer or is it overrated?
It's an overrated game changer.
An overrated game changer.
Yeah.
Explain now.
It was absolutely overrated. I knew people who saw it in the theater like 10 times.
Jesus.
Like, why do you need to spend 30 hours watching Avatar over the course of a month and a half? I don't understand that. Like,
wow.
That's why it made so much money, is because people just could not stop going to see it, and I don't understand why. So that part of it's overrated. But it did change the perception for high budget movies. If it wasn't for Avatar, we wouldn't have any of the Avengers movies. That whole super high budget, high marketing cost movie, like Avatar was the beginning of the new era of that.
Okay. Nice. I came to it so late, man. I really couldn't answer this question. I
really want to know your thoughts.
It's almost got to be overrated for me because I was like, I finally saw it. It was good. It's a huge slow burner, dude. It's a fucking huge slow burn. Holy cow, man. That movie takes so long to fucking develop.
To its credit, that is the movie that changed my mind about 3D.
Okay, I didn't see it.
I bet watching it on an airplane, you couldn't tell it was ever 3D.
Yeah, no, couldn't.
Because it's not filmed like a traditional 3D movie where you have every 3 scenes, you have something popping out at you.
Yeah.
It was like, there were some parts where they had like, like a border going around, like you were watching through a computer and it had text and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in the 3D version, that would be like a pane of glass in front of the screen.
Okay.
And so that part is popped out, but nothing that's on the screen is like popping out at you for most of the movie. And it was really tastefully done. And that was like, wow, 3D movies can be fun to watch.
Okay.
And immersive rather than like jarring.
Massive. Yeah, massive departure for me since I didn't get to see it. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it's got to be
find a 2008 era TV that still has 3D technology.
Yeah, I'll do that.
And buy the 3D Blu-ray of Avatar and give it a watch.
All in, it'll probably cost me $90 at this point. Might be worth it.
Good point.
So in the recent years, there's been 4 actors that have kind of popped onto mainstream filmmaking. They all share something in common. Their first name is Chris. So I came up with 4. There might even be a couple others, but Chris Pine, Chris Pratt, Chris Hemsworth, and Chris Evans. 3 of the 4 are all in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So
one of them in the failed DC universe.
Yeah. So, which Chris is your favorite?
I'm gonna go with Pratt. because I think he has the most range out of all the Chris's. Like he can do like gut busting comedy,
Hmm.
and also be the action hero.
Yeah. Um,
They're all pretty good. Though.
I like all four of them, but one's got to go for me, and it's interesting.
Pine?
No, it's Hemsworth actually. I like Chris Pine a
Oh,
lot.
okay.
I think I think the first Thor, I think is incredible. I think he's great in it. The other ones, like it's the
Yeah,
last one is awful.
they're kind of bottom of the barrel.
The last one is awful. Ragnarok was funny. Ragnarok was
Yeah,
funny.
Ragnarok was a blast.
Yeah, it was fun to watch and it was funny and it's really great. The last one is just terrible. Terrible.
I thought Love and Thunder was kind of fun.
It was like what
but
Ragnarok. It was like wanted to be Ragnarok when it grew up.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But the second one is like really, I think, the worst Marvel movie.
See, it's interesting you mentioned Pratt because I think Evans was the perfect precursor to Pratt. The sharp, witty, handsome, funny dude who's not over the top witty. He's not Ryan Reynolds, right? But just that sardonic, sarcastic wit about him that's really just really good.
Yeah, self-deprecating enough that he's not, that he's not afraid to poke fun at himself, and it makes him less, I don't know, what's the word, intimidating.
For sure. Like I think there's two roles that he's done outside that are a little indie for him that I think are really great performance. I thought he was brilliant. I mean, you want to talk about a crazy fucked up film, but I think he's brilliant as Snowpiercer.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
And Before We Go is really great.
I don't think I've seen that.
So I guess you characterize not as a rom-com. It's a romance film basically. With oh shit. God damn it. What's her name? She's out of my league. Alice Eve.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. 2014. Two strangers that meet in Manhattan and stuff. And it's just a really well done film. I think it's really great. And Chris Evans is really great in it. I love Chris Pratt. I think Chris Pratt's great. There's a really small independent film that he did that I just love to watch. It's like a guilty pleasure film, Small Town Saturday Night, that I think he's great in. But I love him in Unstoppable with Denzel. I think he's great. Fucked up performance in now I'm going to say it now. The Jeremy Piven's in it. It's not Lucky Number 11. It's
I just talked about this movie with a friend the other day. Smoking Aces.
Yes. I like that film. It's great. And he plays such a fucked up character in it. But yeah, I think he's got incredible range. I think he's, and I thought he did a good job as Captain Kirk. Yeah, not great.
I think so too.
Good. But yeah, but I like Pratt probably the most. All right. So 2 movie endings that are controversial. Could have gone with Shane, been like, does he die at the end? He fucking dies at the end, everybody. If you think Shane lives at the end, you're just moronic. Shane dies at the end, guys. It just happens. So the first one was, again, I wanted to throw something to you. This is gonna suck if you haven't seen. Have you seen Book of Eli with Denzel Washington?
Yes.
Okay.
I've seen both these movies.
So spoiler alerts, we're going to talk about the ending, guys. So we're talking about Book of Eli, Denzel Washington. If you haven't seen it, just fast forward. Do you think he's actually blind?
Yes.
You do?
I think so.
Okay.
But it's one of those endings where, like, I don't know so, but I think so.
There's a lot of context if you go back and watch the film again, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. Like when he lures the guys into the dark, like tunnel and stuff to kill him and everything. I don't think he is. I just think he knows how to read Braille. I think that's what makes it special. But it's an interesting point of discussion.
I'm gonna have to watch the movie again and think about it.
Yeah. This is another movie that I've rewatched a couple dozen times, and I really like the film. I think Christopher Nolan is a really underrated. I know it's kind of weird to say he's underrated. I don't think really people appreciate it. I think people dog on him too much. I think Christopher Nolan's a brilliant filmmaker. I think Dunkirk is probably one of the best films
I love
ever made for the big screen. We were talking about watching stuff in the theater. You watch Dunkirk on a TV, if it's the first time you've seen it, you're not gonna. No, you're just
gotta
not
sit
gonna.
like this close, and then it.
Yeah, and then get it and turn the volume all the way up.
Yeah,
because the first 5 minutes of that film, the gunfire just rattles your soul in the theater. It's just crazy. Like it really puts you on as much as the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan puts you on the beach in Normandy, Dunkirk puts you in war.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That
but
movie
anyway,
is intense.
Yes. But the movie I'm talking about is Inception. So the ending, the top is spinning, it's spinning, and it might cut to black.
I think it falls over.
You don't think he's dreaming?
No, that's always been my belief.
Me too. Me too. I don't think it's a dream. I don't think it is. I think it's real life. I think it's, I think he gets home to his kids, man. I think it just happens. Call me a sap, call me whatever. I just think I think it is.
I do still love that they left it ambiguous. I love an ambiguous ending.
Yes. Love when the hero dies. Love an ambiguous ending. Good stuff. Awesome. Cool, man. All right. Well, we got a couple more segments to close out our night. Changing things up. This is our Everybody Eats segment sponsored by Postano Cigars. If you always make sure that your servant's towel is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Postano Cigars is more than just great cigars made for cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. With Postano, everybody eats. Now, I had 3 questions on there. I decided to throw an audible here, Tripp, but it's not going to be too hard for you. Favorite snack to watch while watching movies? To eat while watching movies, rather. Favorite snack to eat while watching movies? There's the classics, of course, but what's the Tripp Waldrop snack of choice?
Oh, I have my absolute go-to. It has become my wife's go-to. It is jarred nacho cheese and chips.
Nice. Like the all-time like whitest fucking thing ever. Like just like straight out the can Cheese Whiz, jarred
not
jalapenos.
Like cheese, like salsa con queso with chips.
Okay. Nice. Okay, so not jarred jalapenos, just jarred queso.
Yeah, jarred queso.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay.
Dip the chips in.
Yes.
But I do like it room temperature. So, that's pretty white.
That's not the weirdest thing. Next time you're out here, man, I'm going to buy some queso. It's not jarred. It's in the refrigerator section. It's called Cowgirl Queso is the brand, and they make this jalapeno bacon wrap queso dip that is so fantastic, and it's fucking great cold. It's so good. Like I don't even want to heat. You don't even want to heat it up. It's so good. Freaking, I want to go get some right now. It's so good. So I love the classic popcorn. I really do. I will still buy popcorn in the theater when I take my boys. My kids love the popcorn, which is kind of cool to kind of throw back to a classic. But for me, it is actually nachos. I will make nachos for movie night. I love making nachos.
I love a microwave nacho, man. It's
so I'm a little uppity. I make mine in the oven, and I will lay out all of my chips on a tray. And yes, I will make sure that
that's the proper way to do it.
Yes, is 100%. Evenly dispersed. I have meat, typically like it's carne asada or carnitas or something. I actually do fresh jalapeno. I do a salsa verde or pico de gallo for the cooling aspect of it. And then after it comes out of the oven, then there's small dollops of sour cream that have to go on it. So,
wow. Yeah, that's the right way to do it. I'm lazy, so I just usually do
use the jar. Yeah,
cheese on a mountain.
Yes, that works too. Yeah, trash can nachos, dude. Nothing beats that either. That's great stuff. Cool. Well, that was our Everybody Eats segment, sponsored by Postania Cigars. If you always make sure that your servant's towel is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Postania Cigars is more than just great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. With Postania, everybody eats. So this next segment is our asylum moment. Refuge is more than just a physical place. It can be a state of mind. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. Moments like these were made for asylum cigars, so light up an asylum and choose your refuge. So again, we're going to stay on theme here. What is a moment where you were able to watch a film and smoke a cigar that really comes to memory?
Oh man, too many to count. I'm out here in my little man cave. I got a TV right there. I watch a lot of movies while I'm smoking a cigar. I'm trying to think if there's like a particular memory that comes to mind, or a particular film even. No, nothing particular. So for me, it's never a specific cigar, it's never a specific movie, but I watch a lot of usually bad horror movies with my dad while we smoke a cigar, sometimes have a beer or a whiskey or a coffee even. And those are the moments that come to mind, is just watching a movie with my dad smoking a cigar. Doesn't
Nice.
matter what movie, what cigar.
I so Ben Lee, friend of the show, member of the Cigar Coop Coalition, he always he's got his little outside office that he works in and he smokes cigars all day. He also watches a lot of sports and TV and movies. And so I've always like been jealous of that. I'm like, well, I can do that. So I've done a little bit more recently. I mentioned watching Casablanca with Sam the other day at his place. We were outside smoking cigars, which is great. But for me, it was really great the other day. The other night, I put on a film that I just absolutely really, it's my favorite film of all time. I actually do have a favorite film of all time. It's Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner. I love that film. Shout out to Ray Liotta, R.I.P. The James Earl Jones character is still one of my favorite characters of all time. He wasn't on my hero list because again, he's not the main character in the film. He's not really the hero, so he didn't make my hero list. But I loved it. I smoked a couple cigars while watching that, and it was just perfect. The weather was great. It was just got to that point where in like just a few weeks ago where it wasn't 100 degrees at night anymore. It was about 85. Yeah. So I was still out in shorts and a t-shirt. Mosquitoes weren't biting. Put on Field of Dreams, lit up a cigar, and freaking awesome. Love it. Loved it. It was great. Great asylum moment. So refuge is more than just a physical place. It can be a state of mind. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. Moments like these were made for asylum cigars. Light up an asylum and choose your refuge. Actually smoked an asylum that night too.
Nice.
Smoked the 2020 PCA asylum, which is really, really good. Tom did a great job with that. Tom and Christian did a really great job with that cigar. So awesome. Well, this is our last question of the night. And of course, it always comes down to this. Our Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust curveball segment. Yes. Really, really confusing for Tripp here since he doesn't like sports, but fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter since the company's inception. Steve Saga's been knocking them out of the park. Count them up, guys. 8. That's 8 consecutive years in the consensus top 3. Number 9, possibly around the corner. Papa Saka could make that list. Can it happen? We don't know. We'll find out in a few short months. But congratulations to our good friend, Mr. Steve Saka. So Tripp, here's the curveball question. What movie do you think you could have played a major role in believably?
I don't know if there is one. There is one. The one that comes to mind is, and this applies for dozens and dozens of movies, but there's one in particular that is like number one offender, if I could have been in the room, even just barely on screen, like an assistant, like you just see my hands clacking on a keyboard. But there's a part in Die Harder, the Justin Long one,
Mm-hmm.
where I used to know the line and I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. But it's something along the lines of I'm hacking their IPs,
Yeah.
and it reminds me of a meme where it's like he's hacking all our IPs, or he's hacking our IPs, and somebody says which one, and the guy looks at the camera and goes, "Sir, it's all of them." And like it was that level of like nonsensical techno babble that I feel like if they had just swapped me in for Justin Long in that scene, I could have made it make sense to somebody who knows what he's talking about.
I love Kevin Smith's cameo in that fucking film, dude. I gotta lie, he's great.
Actually, it might have been Kevin. I don't think it was Kevin Smith that said it. I think it was something that either a bad guy or Justin Long said.
Yeah.
But either way, it was somebody who was saying words that don't make any sense.
Don't make any sense, but they made it sound nerdy.
But they made it sound believable.
Yeah. Kevin Smith's line is like, "Oh, you a big fan of the Fett?" It's always I always think about you in that scene. I'm more of a Star Wars fan myself. Star Wars fan. Get the fuck out of here. Oh man. Yeah, the original Die Hard still is king, man, for me.
Yeah, of course.
But for me, what the movie role that I think I could have played better, just because it was so random, because he's a brilliant actor, but it was just so misplaced for me, at least in this role. So Kevin Costner, I argue this all the time. Kevin Costner is probably the greatest sports actor of all time. And Coop will argue with this me. He'll say it's Sylvester Stallone because all the Rocky films. I'm like, that's the same fucking character.
Yeah, that's the same character.
Same character. You know, for me, Kevin Costner is the greatest sports actor of all time. And he plays Billy Chapel in a movie called For Love of the Game. It's this pitcher who's had a long career. It's his final game that he's pitching in. And he pitches, spoiler alert, he pitches a perfect game, right? The perfect ending to a long storied career, right? Well, his catcher, J.K. Simmons, by the way, is the manager in this film. Just say, could have probably done that role, but I'm not taking anything away from J.K. Simmons because he's brilliant. But Kevin Costner's catcher in this film is a brilliant actor who's done some amazing roles in his career, has great range. He can do comedy and he can also do drama. But as a professional athlete, he's a little misplaced. And that's John C. Reilly.
I was trying to remember if that's who it was. I know this movie mostly because it's directed by one of my favorite directors of all time, Sam Raimi, who directed Evil Dead. And
what fucking range that guy has? Talk about range.
Career since then.
Sam Raimi as a director, what range does that fucking guy have? Holy cow.
I know. It's
unbelievable choices.
He went from an infamous but like technically incredible indie horror movie that a bunch of friends made in the middle of the woods to For the Love of the Game, and then like he kicked off the superhero genre with Spider-Man.
Right. Just fucking unbelievable range, dude. Just, oh god, Sam Raimi's the shit. I love him. But John C. Reilly as a professional athlete is probably like the fucking worst call out of all call outs.
Yeah.
And like I could have done that role more believable than him. And I'm not I haven't been an athlete for a very long time. But yeah, just him as a catcher in a professional baseball game is just, oh man, it puts knots in my stomach, dude. He does deliver some great lines. And like I said, he's a great actor and like he does a good job performing the lines. And he has a very famous like little soliloquy on the mound towards the end of the movie. That does get me going every time. But like him actually acting as an athlete, it fucking is so bad. It's so bad. It's the worst part of the fucking film, you know. And it's just, oh God, don't like it. Don't like it. I could definitely have done that. I could have definitely done that part easily. And more believably than him, I'll say. So that's my pick for the Dunbar Tobacco Trust curveball segment. So, well, that wraps up our show tonight, man. Tripp, this was a lot of fun, man. I know we left a lot on the table because I mean, when you talk about the span of film, there's so much more.
As always.
Yeah. Directors is something we're going to bring up next time. I think we got to do that. I think supporting actors needs to come in somehow. I'm going to throw one out there too. I think best cinematography, because I think we could have an interesting discussion about that since we talked about it, film aesthetic. I have one that comes to mind really, but I won't spoil it. So, but man, this was a lot of fun. I hope you had a good time. Thanks so much for coming. This is your ninth appearance on the show. We talk about movies a lot. You'll be making your 10th appearance later this year when we do Return of the King. So
yeah,
we get to nerd out on Lord of the Rings one more time. I'm really, really excited about that show. For nothing other than I think the Sam loves Return of the King, and it's like my third favorite of the 3 films, which is interesting. I go 2, 1, 3. I still love it. It's great.
Yeah,
it just
me
takes,
too.
The ending fucking kills it for me. I can't do it. This the 10,000 endings. It's just like a death by 1,000.
It was the only one that I only saw in theaters once, and I have never watched the full extended edition.
Okay, we'll have to correct that before the show.
Yeah, of course.
We'll have to do that. So, but yeah, really excited to do that later on this year before 2023 is sunsetted, because we got to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Return of the King, and that'll sunset the Lord of the Rings discussion over the last 3 years with Sam and Tripp and Matt Ty. We're hoping to get the gang back together for all of it, so it'll be fun times. So, really, really appreciate it, guys. Tripp, thank you so much for stopping in, man. And I really appreciate tonight's discussion. It was a lot of fun. Love talking film. Love talking movies with you.
Me too. Any chance I get to talk movies is a blast. Thanks for having me on. Always happy to guest for you, and keep those numbers up. Keep competing with Miguel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I appreciate
it. Absolutely. So for everyone out there, this was our 267th take. Keep those likes and shares and comments always coming. We really do appreciate it. You can always check out our show every Sunday night at 9:30 Central here on our Facebook page. We do it live. We also have our YouTube channel as well, where you can check out all the recent episodes as well. Hit the subscribe button when you're there too. If you're listening to us on podcasts later on, wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts, including iHeartRadio, do me a favor and hit the download, subscribe, and review buttons. If you already are a subscriber, do me a favor, hit the word unsubscribe, but don't forget to hit resubscribe. That allows me to keep building my audience and helps my numbers. Believe it or not, I know that sounds weird, but it does. And then I can get great guests like Tripp whenever I want, which is awesome. So again, this was our 267 take. Done 267 of these. Tripp, you've been part of 9 of them. It sounds like a drop in the bucket, but that's a pretty good, healthy percentage when you think about it. So good job there. Thanks for coming back, and we'll see you later on this year. So for everyone out there, again, this was take 267 live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Azle, Texas. Guess what, everybody? We'll see you next time.